Call the meeting to order. If Councilor Mercier would please lead us in the council prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen.
Amen. Please honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get started, we're going to have a presentation by the Encore Dance Troupe, who is in its 25th anniversary this year.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Murphy, City Councils, City Manager, and community member. My name is Tim Tu. I'm a co-founder and also the program director of the Encore Dance Troupe Lowell office at Morgan Cultural Center. I am here tonight with the board director, Vice President Suchanda Uch. First, thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. We're here this evening to announce the Encore Dance Troupe is celebrate 25-year Cambodian performing art preservation, promotion, and innovation. But before Suchanda speak, I would like to take just a moment to share with you a little bit about myself and the troupe. I'm immigrant in the United States back in 1982 and eventually created a home for myself and family here in Lowell. In 1986, with support handful fellow dancers from refugee camp and many community leaders, Encore Dance Troupe was found non-profit organization. Over 25 years, I have had support work with troupe and watching and grows a national renowned dance ensemble. Our success would not be been possible without your support, our city. So thanks for the last 25 years. I hope you will join us for the next 25 years more. So I'd like to now to turn back to Suchanda for tell more about our fundraising. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilwoman, City Councilman, and City Manager. My name is Suchanda Uch. I am the Vice President of the Board of Directors for the Encore Dance Troupe. And first, I would just like to say thank you for having us tonight. Encore Dance Troupe is proud to announce that the year 2012 marks our 25th anniversary. We cordially invite you to join us for a night of delicious Cambodian cuisine to celebrate this exciting milestone and spend a night with Encore on Monday, March 26th at the Elephant Walk in Waltham, Mass. As the heart and soul of the Cambodian American community in Lowell, the troupe serves as a foundation and voice of cherished cultural traditions. As a testament in our esteemed talent, the Encore Dance Troupe was one of 10 performing arts organizations recognized by the National Endowment of the Arts, which resulted in an invitation to premiere an exclusive performance at the White House. The troupe continues to receive national attention, including a major feature in the award-winning documentary Monkey Dance and on the Travel Channel with Andrew Zimmern. This success was made possible with the support and community and key stakeholders like yourselves. As we celebrate the past 25 years, we look to grow, strengthen, and expand our repertoire. A night with Encore will provide you with the opportunity to meet the troupe's founder, talk with dancers, and mix and mingle with other supporters like yourselves. So please join us in our journey to preserve these traditions and artistically innovate into the next 25 years and beyond. Now, in the Cambodian culture, it is customary that when there is a celebration, the host of the event invites the distinguished guests in person as a sign of respect. So at this time, I would like to ask members of our board, Liana Kushi and Naren Sinun, to hand out our invitations to you. Thank you for your time.
for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations on your 25th anniversary. We look forward to... Next, we'll move on to the city clerk's portion of the agenda. Excuse me, we'll call the roll first, and then...
All set. Counselor Elliott.
Yes, or here.
Counselor Kennedy.
Here.
Counselor Laurie. Here. Counselor Martin.
Here.
Counselor Madonza.
Here.
Counselor Mercier.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Counselor Nguyen.
Here.
Counselor Broderick.
Here.
9 present.
Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to ask to see if we could suspend the rules to take up a subcommittee report from the youth activities subcommittee that took place over a week ago. We have many young students in the audience, and I know I think it'd be advantageous to take it up so they could go back home and do their homework.
Sure. Motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. We have then, under subcommittee reports, the Youth Services Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On February 22nd at 4 p.m., the Youth Services Subcommittee met with, consisting of myself, Councilor Mercier, and Councilor Noon. There was a meeting as a result of a motion that was filed and passed relative to the voting age of 17. So we held a subcommittee meeting, and there were members from UTEC that attended, and I'm not sure if they're here, if they want to speak briefly. You do?
We do have,
There are some registered to vote.
Oh, there are some registered? Oh, okay. So why don't we just go to them? I mean, essentially, this is, they asked us to, to revisit the voting age issue. There was a bill filed. It's currently in bills in third reading at the State House. They asked us to bring in a resolution to express our support again in this session. And we actually did, Councilor Mercier and myself, we made the motion, and we're bringing that forward tonight. So maybe that is the report, essentially. But that's why they are here, looking for a resolution for support to try to move it along and to get it out of the legislature and essentially on the ballot. So that's the report of progress, and that was the motion that we do endorse a resolution. Excuse me, that the law department prepare a resolution and bring it forward for approval.
okay.
Thank you.
So motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Laurie. On the motion, we have 4 registered speakers.
Yasli Cartagena.
Well, good evening. My name is Susan Lee, and I am a teen organizer at the United Teen Equality Center. I am here on behalf of Vote 17, which I am proud to say I've been a part of since day one. Our campaign is very much live and well, but we couldn't do it alone. I'd like to first thank the Youth Services Committee for helping us with this opportunity to speak in front of you, and to thank you for letting us 3 speakers speak in front of you. I'd also like to thank our previous city councilors for filing our home rule petition and being one of our biggest champions. We'd like to put on record our new endorsements we recently encountered, which were Neighbor to Neighbor, Mass Vote, Circle Group out of Tufts University, Demos, SEIU 615, IBEW 2321, the National Youth Rights Association, Teens Leading the Way, League of Youth Voters, Public Policy Institute, One Massachusetts, and last but not least, our very own Lowell Sun. After meeting with the Lowell Sun editor, Jim Campanini, we realized that we are not only representing the youth, but we are also representing Lowell. We represent Lowell with every opportunity that knocks, and one of them just happened to include, and we were very privileged to present our Vote 17 campaign to the National Youth Rights Association in Washington, D.C. at their annual meeting during the summer. Lowell and teens are often brought up in a negative light, but we didn't let that stop us from fighting for what we want. We are honored to take a positive stance. Today is the Massachusetts presidential primary. It's the perfect time to talk about the importance of voting. Thank you.
Colleen Kursky.
Hello, my name is Yazzie Cartagena.
And I'm Luz Perella.
And we would like to thank the teens and the young people of Lowell that have helped us drive our campaign.
We've had so much support from the local youth with all of our projects to help spread awareness for our cause.
All of last summer, we have had 40 to 50 teens who would show up regularly to knock on doors of Lowell citizens, and in the end, we've knocked on the doors of over 3,000 doors.
We even knocked during Hurricane Irene. Why do we do this, you ask?
Because we, as teenagers, are addicted to serving our community as youth leaders. This campaign has been an amazing example of what happens when Lowell youth come together to work for one common cause.
So we would like to thank our most important supporters, all of you.
You Tech.
Hello, my name is Carleen Kirksey, and I'm also a teen organizer at UTEC. Like Susan said, we thank the City Council for being champions and leading our Vote 17 campaign to the State House. After City Hall, our petition went to the State House, and so did we. Our public hearing was extremely successful. Susan and I were the first to do a spoken word piece, and we are the first city in the country to get our bill out the Joint Committee of Election Laws. Now, a couple of months back, people said our Vote 17 campaign was dead because of the Secretary of State's concerns. But we got supporting statements from our Lowell City solicitor, Nick Riley out of New York, and Professor Lawrence Tribe out of Harvard. Our bill is indeed constitutional, and we plan to meet with the Secretary of State to address his concerns in the next few weeks. If we get this bill passed, we will be able to demonstrate how 17 is intentional. Being able to vote will increase voter turnout, increase lifelong civic habits, and increase youth representation. We don't want our first voting experience to be an absentee vote. We want to be changed and continue being the city of first. And we thank Mayor Murphy, City Council, and the teens in this community for their help and support. Lastly, we would like to give a special thanks to Representative Kevin Murphy, who's been a huge champion and role model for the teens in Lowell on helping us get our bill this far. We will continue to bring our strong presence at the State House every Wednesday, handing out flyers, making everyone aware of what is going on in our city. We are here to ask you tonight, City Council, to please re-endorse our bill so we can bring our continuous support from our city leaders to the State House. If you do, we would like to know if you can send a letter and record of your support to the Speaker of the House and Secretary of State. Once again, we thank you for the time you have given us, and we appreciate the amount of support you've handed us throughout this process. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just so proud of the youth of our city. This is a campaign unlike no other, when they had a goal and they did everything they could in a uniformed, dignified way to make something that they believed in happen. There is a motion on the floor to renew this petition. There are 3 new city councilors here that didn't have the privilege or the chance to express themselves, and I think that's what we want to do with that motion. So we'd like to refer it to the city solicitor to draft it for the proper vote, bring it back for the proper vote. Let me just say, if this is the future, we're in good shape. You'd think you were all union members. This is unbelievable how great you truly are, and I'm just busting out with pride because this is a very long road to go to. You were not discouraged, you forged onward, and I can't be more prouder than all of you here this evening. UTech, you're the best. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
So, Mr. Mayor, just to recap, the resolution was to draft a resolution supporting Bill House 1111, which is currently, as I mentioned, in bills in third reading, and bring that back for approval.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Laurie. Okay. Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie. Yes. Counselor Martin. Yes. Counselor Madonza.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Luan.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
9 years.
Thank you. Still under suspension of the rules, I'd entertain a motion to also take Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, we've suspended the rules. We do have two other large groups here tonight. One is George Kumanzelis with the Powwow Oak Preservation, if we could suspend the rules to move forward. And also after them, Joe Grenham, Dave Patel, Joe Ganji, and Tim Green are here to speak about forced labor accounts at the LHA. If we can take those two out of order.
Yes.
Sure.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Mercy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. We have item number 8 on the agenda, a vote authorizing the city manager to execute the Powwow Oak Tree Preservation Covenant. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to execute the Powwow Oak Tree Preservation Covenant. The city of Lowell is desirous of preserving the Powwow Oak Tree located on Clark Road in the city of Lowell, and the preservation covenant attached to this vote will address the preservation of said historical tree. Be it voted by the City Council of the city of Lowell as follows: that the city manager is hereby authorized to execute on behalf of the city of Lowell the Powwow Oak Tree Preservation Covenant in the form or substantially the form attached hereto. Be it further voted that the city manager is hereby empowered to take such steps as necessary to carry out the maintenance and other provisions of said preservation covenant. Second reading by title. In City Council vote, authorizing city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to execute the Powwow Oak Tree Preservation Covenant. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Mendonça. We have a few speakers registered on this motion. Mr. Clerk.
Leo and Sandra Garno.
My name is Leo Gano. I reside at 241 Clark Road. I'm here to speak in favor of the motion to protect the Powwow Oak and the land surrounding it. I understand there is another motion, or the covenant is worded as to only last till the tree dies, which I disagree with. Protecting and preserving the small parcel of land and the white oak trees on it does not adversely affect the neighborhood. Living near this site for over 60 years and as a consulting forester, I have appreciated the tree with its history and the significance of the land it is growing on. I would like to also point out that there is some very healthy regeneration which has seeded in from the Powwow Oak tree growing on the site as well. The land appears to be the only area containing white oak and regeneration in the neighborhood. This makes me wonder and speculate that it could have been considered an unusual place and easily identifiable as a meeting place for Native Americans. The land is well recorded as a meeting place for Native Americans, which gives another reason to protect the land, the tree, and its white oak regeneration. I urge the council to preserve this small parcel of land, the powwow oak, and its regeneration as a historic meeting place. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo.
Sandra's not speaking.
George Kemazelis.
Thank you, Mayor Murphy, Clerk Geary, and all of the councilors here this evening. We, the Power Protectors, and our friends and supporters throughout the greater community of Lowell, thank you all for allowing us to present our case one last time, hopefully. And we are all proud of you that you have finally, the 2012 Lowell City Council, agreed and determined to once and for all save this beautiful treasure to the city of Lowell. I live at 241 Remington Street. I've lived there practically my whole life. I grew up near the tree, and I can assure you that from the response we've received in the past 2.5 years since we began our campaign in September of 2009, that the neighborhood and the greater community are in full agreement and support our cause to save and protect this wonderful relic to our neighborhood, our city, our state, and our country. Anyone who knows me knows I can write long letters. I will try to keep this very short, I promise you. We just want you all to know that the reason why we feel this is so important is because if you look, if you look at these pictures, this is the sign that has been put by the tree by the Daughters of the American Revolution around Memorial Day, 1931. This sign is a beautiful sign, and we all love it. The DeMoulis Foundation gave the Power Protectors the first $1,000 to restore this sign, and the sign is going to be restored. Anyone who drives by the tree now will see that there is a temporary replacement sign there. This sign has 2.5 lines devoted to the Native Americans, 4.5 lines devoted to the Patriots, and 2 lines devoted to the tree. We think that's nice. We have no problem with that. The only problem is, as beautiful and as historically accurate as this sign is, and indeed it is, because according to John Coppinger, who tested the tree, it is at least 320 years old, which means that it would have been germinated in 1690. As beautiful as this sign is, and we hope it stands there for a long time, it is not adequate in protecting either the tree, the land, or the sign itself. If the words on this sign were adequate enough to protect the tree, no one would have ever cut branches off of this tree. This is the tree in 1974, January. This is the tree in 2010, October. This is the tree ordinance of the city of Lowell. That was a crime. No one was ever prosecuted for that crime. That's okay. We'll let it go. Because of us, this will never happen again, hopefully. If this sign were adequate, no one would have ever encroached on the public right-of-way, the southern section of the right-of-way. The northern section of the right-of-way is private property. Even though the deed says it should forever remain open, it's private property. People in our society respect private property. But the southern side of the right-of-way is city-owned land. It belongs to the taxpayers and the citizens of the city of Lowell. But because it's been encroached upon, nobody knows this. They think it's private property. It is not. It belongs to the citizens and all of the taxpayers of the city of Lowell. If this sign were adequate and sufficient, no one would have ever encroached upon the very sign itself and spray painted it silver. And because they spray painted it silver, we now have to spend more money to restore it back to its original condition. But that's okay. We and a bunch of other groups are helping the DAR to restore their sign. We want you to know that in 1929, Mr. Albert E. O'Hare, a gentleman born in Canada, into a very distinguished Irish Catholic family, moved to the United States, moved up to Clark Road, bought acres and acres of land on both sides of Clark Road, had a business in Lowell, raised a family in Lowell, served his community well. He died in 1929. 2 years later, in 1931, when they put this sign, as beautiful as it is, there's no mention of Mr. Albert O'Hare on this sign. Mr. Albert O'Hare has never been recognized for his sacrifice. In the process of discovery, and maybe thank God that it took us this long, because we might not have discovered this, but in the process of discovery, Nancy Reed from the Tewksbury Planning Board found out that indeed Mr. Albert O'Hare gave up, was taken, over 9,463 square feet of his land in 1909 across the street from the tree. We have the deed, we have the map, M54. Peter Maloney gave me this map himself in the engineer's office. And we have the mayoral resolution of December 28th, 1909, that undeniably, unequivocally proves that Mr. Albert E. O'Hare, this very dignified and distinguished-looking gentleman who lived in the old Samuel Hunt house, the O'Hare house, now the Garneau house at 241 Clark Road, this man, out of the goodness of his heart, saved this tree. Mr. Albert E. O'Hare loved this tree. This man came to the city of Lowell willingly and said, please, don't cut down the tree. Because before 495 was built, the old Clark Road was a dirt gravel path called the Bridle Path that led from Lowell into Tewksbury. In 1909, Middlesex County paved and widened Clark Road. They made the street straighter and more modern. And the tree was in the road, in the northbound lane of the road when you're coming from Tewksbury, heading to Andover Street. Mr. O'Hare owned land on both sides of the street. And he said, please, do not cut down the tree. I am willing to give up land across the street from the tree, move the road this way, and we can save the tree. And he did not press damages to the city. So we want to honor this man, and we want people to know that if it were not for him, this tree would never have been saved, and we would not be standing here before you right now. We have composed a plaque that has gone through multiple revisions from input from members of the community far and wide. Our historical nautilus, Mr. Eugene Winter here, Eugene Clark Winter, from the Hunt Clark family, the Hunt Clark Cemetery on Alcott Street, and his friend, attorney Douglas Hunt Sears, founding members of the Tewksbury Historical Society, along with Beverly Bennett and William Carey, a group of people who we have the utmost respect for, people of true integrity, are on our side and came to our aid in our hour of need. And we thank them. Through the help of Mr. Winter, who is a curator at the Robert S. Peabody Museum in Andover at Phillips Academy, a volunteer for over 60 years, a distinguished archaeologist, a distinguished historian, a man in whose name a Medal of Honor has been created, like a Nobel Peace Prize, for his historical and archaeological acumen, has been our guide since day one. We do not do anything without consulting with Eugene Winter first. I can guarantee you that every word on this plaque that we want to put in the city land is accurate to the nth degree. If that sign were sufficient, all of this wouldn't have happened, but it's not. So we want people to know, years from now, when they ride by Clark Road and they read this plaque that says the Power Oak land of Belvedere, because Native Americans did not separate the tree from the land, from the air. It was all one. It was all held sacred. They will know, number one, that this is a public tree. This is a protected shade tree. This is a public tree on public land. This is a public tree on public land abutting a right-of-way that was once part of Wamasett and is still part of Wamasett. This is now a National Historic Tree registered with the American Forest Organization, the distinguished organization in Washington, D.C., in their Historic Tree Program. This is a tree that is at least 320 years old, at least, according to John Coppinger. This is a tree that is a Quercus alba white oak, as Mr. Garno said, very rare, very special for this neighborhood. This is a tree that is symbolic and sacred to the Native American community. I myself have first and second cousins who are part Native American. This is a tree that is held sacred by the environmental community because Henry David Thoreau, one of the founding fathers of the environmental movement here in the United States, and we have Deborah Belandra's Merrimack Valley Guide right here from the city of Lowell. We all know Deborah. In wilderness is the preservation of the world. Henry David Thoreau. Yeah, they got it wrong. It's really in wildness, but we forgive them. Their heart is in the right place. This man came up the Concord River. He wrote a book about it. He loved Lowell. It was one of his happiest occasions, coming through the Concord River, coming through Lowell with his brother. This tree is very symbolic. And last but not least, no one knows and no one will know, unless you pass this motion, that if it were not for the goodwill, out of the goodness of his heart, of Mr. Albert E. O'Hare, that gentleman who loved the tree, this tree would have been lost. And so we urge you, please, vote yes to pass this wonderful covenant that the law department of the city of Lowell has so nobly crafted this wonderful document so that forever and ever, when people drive by Clark Road and they look up at this tree and you can see the heart, now that there's no leaves, it looks like a heart. May it beat forever, that they will know that this land is always sacred, Native American land, a sacred tree, and they will always look upon it as the word says, Belvedere, in Italian, la bella videre, something beautiful, beautiful to behold, forever and forever and forever. Amen. We thank you, and we most especially want to thank our beloved queen of the Lowell City Council, Councilor Rita Mercier, for going out on that limb of that tree and helping us save it. Thank you, Rita, and thank you, Lowell City Council.
Ed O'Keefe.
After Mr. O'Keefe, yep.
Hi, my name's Ed O'Keefe. I live on 1227 Lawrence Street here in Lowell. One thing I'm really concerned about is that this always stays a historical monument, even if the tree no longer is standing. This was a place where the native people, the Wamasett, the Pawtuckets, had council meetings and meetings there. This was one of the last forms of traditional government that has been known to be a public spot of the natives at this council tree. It's also a pathway to the American Revolution, as we know. And that's actually the beginnings of our Constitution. So it's politically, it really means a lot to preserve this particular historical spot. And I just really hope you consider that it becomes a permanent spot, even after the tree goes, to preserve this. And thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Stephen Hatton.
Good evening. I'm Steve Hatton, 35 Harlan Avenue. Here in full support of this preservation measure. The tree, the land is more than worthy of this act. When I first moved to the neighborhood, I pulled my car over, I read the sign, I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is really significant, it's really cool. And then it wasn't too much beyond that. I was driving down Clark Road, and someone had piled probably 20 lawn bags all around the tree, all around the sign, filled with leaves and just yard debris. And I was thinking to myself, that's ridiculous, that's just a shame. But shame on me, I didn't do anything about it. That was all before I met George, and I want to just take a quick second, George. I've got to know him very well now through this. He's come to our neighborhood group several times speaking. He's always one to pass the credit around, but he deserves as much credit as anyone for saving this tree. So I'd like to just recognize that. George, please stand. Get up, man. So I urge you to pass this measure, and thanks to George.
Thank you. What is the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Council Broderick, second by Council Mercia. Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Laurie,
Yes.
Counselor Martin,
Yes.
Counselor Madonza,
Yes.
Counselor Mercia,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy,
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen,
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Still under suspension of the rules, we have Councilor Laurie.
Yeah, the next item was Joe Grenham, Dave Patel, Joe Ganji, Tim Green, requesting permission to speak regarding forced labor accounts at the LHA. If we could suspend the rules to let them speak.
Yeah, we've already suspended the rules, so I'll just read out the petition. Petition to the City Council by Joseph Grenham, David Patel, Joseph Ganji, and Tim Green to request permission to speak at the City Council meeting regarding the communication with the Lowell Housing Authority. Mr. Clerk.
There's a registered speaker, Jeff Sullivan. Just the petitioners, the signature of the petitioners are the only other people.
Mr. Grenham? Mr. Patel? If you could just say your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. Lynch. My name is David Pertel. I'm the business manager for Laborers Local 429 in Lowell. I'm here to answer probably a couple of questions that Councilor Elliott brought up about the forced labor account at the Housing Authority.
Could we get your home address, please?
It's 157 B Street, Drake. All right, he seemed to have a question, Mr. Elliott did, about are they hiring anybody they want out of the union hall? How do we know they're qualified, certified or not? Is it just pulling craftsmen in from here and there? Okay, well, they're not hiring just anybody that they want. They're hiring whoever the business manager sends to the job. Sometimes they have a person with a history with the Housing Authority. They'll go back there. We've been associated with the Housing Authority with the forced labor account since 1978. Done a lot of projects with them. Everything seems to have been going along well and successful until the permit issue came up. As far as being qualified, every member of my local has been OSHA certified. They've gone through a safety course. They're working on all the big projects in the city of Lowell, UMass Lowell, University Avenue Bridge, Lowell General Hospital, all these projects that are going on have laborers from Local 429. And most of them are from the area. And in fact, every time that I get a call from the Housing Authority, I try to send a Lowell resident. 9 out of 10 of the members that have gone to the Housing Authority have been Lowell residents. We've completed a lot of projects, and it's good for the community and it's good for the laborers from Lowell. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pertel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. Manager. My name is Joe Ganji, Business Manager from Carpenters, Local 111 in Merrimack Valley, and my office is in Methuen. I reside in Drake, Massachusetts, but I stand before you with your concerns with respect to the Housing Authority and the forced labor account. As Brother Patel stated, we've had a long history with the Housing Authority, a long partnership that's worked. We've saved money. We've put people to work from the Housing Authority with the Step Up program, kids to come into our apprenticeship programs and actually go and get trained in a career. These same people have been able to, from the city of Lowell, they give us an opportunity to come and work for the city. You asked about who are we sending. Very many times when Gary Wallace is ever asked for somebody, we make every effort to make sure that they're from the city of Lowell or from the surrounding communities. Things that have been going on over there is unfortunate. I know that Gary Wallace and his housing authority working very hard to make sure that the permit issue is resolved. But in no way does this relate to what you guys are getting for a product that you're receiving at the housing authority. We have very highly skilled men and women who are just like the laborers, have OSHA training mandatory by our contract, 10 hours of OSHA, 30-hour OSHA. When the training is over millions of dollars in training for our members, and they're very highly trained, highly skilled. We're very fortunate to have this partnership for going on for long times. To imagine people getting employed from the city and surrounding areas, being able to get livable wages, benefits, and health insurance, to pay the taxes, to own homes in the city of Lowell. They're all been working there throughout these many years that the Housing Authority has been there. And imagine a forced labor account, what we like to reference to as a direct hire, saving the taxpayers of the Commonwealth and the city of Lowell $1.6 million by using forced labor. That's a tremendous service, and it should be noted that Gary and James Milanazzo and the former deputy directors over there have done a great job and recognize the true value of a forced labor account. It saves money. It puts people to work. They spend the money in the community. I think that's a tremendous thing to have and to honor and salute the work that they do, the partnership that we have, and we're very fortunate to be with them. And we're going to continue to work with them as long to make sure that our people, the men and women, are highly skilled, highly trained, highly motivated. When the job is in, the money's out, they get laid off. It's not permanent. They know that every job that they're handed, that it's going to come to an end and get laid off. That's a part of our business. It's a hard reality. They don't get vacation. They don't get sick days. Any hour that they lose, whether it's weather or not, they don't get paid for it. All they're asking for is an opportunity at the American dream to provide for their families. And the Housing Authority does that. Look throughout the city of Lowell today. All the construction in the past and what's going on right today. The LaLasha Park, the Songus Arena, what's going on right now with all the rebirth of the Boot Mills, the Appleton Mills, what's going on at the Jackson Street Mills with Lowell Community Health. All these projects have been built by those same highly trained, highly motivated members of each respective trade: carpenters, laborers, pipe fitters, tin knockers, electricians, iron workers, all highly motivated, spending their money and paying their taxes in the city of Lowell. Okay? We've all been a big part of that. Every project you see in Lowell right now going on today, I can assure you that the carpenters of Local 111 are proud to be here, and we want to support. We thank you for your vision that all these city councils have done and what you do for your constituents. It's a long-standing relationship with the Housing Authority. We're proud. Lowell is the heartbeat of my local, okay, in my organization. Everybody says, Ganji, you got all the work in Lowell because it's the vision of the great leaders of the city of Lowell, from Paul Songus, Nikki Songus, LaLasha. All of you have had a great vision. And look at what's going on in the rebirth of the city of Lowell. It's beautiful. And I'm proud. And my members are proud. And every member that stands before you tonight are proud to get the opportunity. Highly skilled, highly trained people. And I thank you. And I would invite all of you, if you'd like to come to see our training center in Millbury, Mass, to see what the training that we go through for our members. And I thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, and the council. And if you have any more questions, you know I'm available at any time to help you, and hopefully we will get through this unfortunate incident. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ganji. Mr. Green?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, Council. Nice to be back. As the Commissioner for Labor on the Lowell Housing Authority, I would like to thank the Council for this opportunity to clarify issues the Council had in regards to forced labor and our qualifications. I speak to you tonight as a licensed pipe fitter and a member of Pipe Fitters Local Union 537. The Pipe Fitters Training Program has a budget of $2 million per year to ensure that each and every student that comes through the program is proficient in the mechanical and heating, ventilating, and air conditioning industry. Our program is state approved. Our apprentices are registered and licensed. Our apprenticeship training program consists of a minimum of 2 nights, 3 hours per night, 5 years. 5-year program. Upon graduation, all pipe fitters and refrigeration technicians are state licensed and earn other certifications such as OSHA training, oil burners, medical gas, welding. Our journeyman training program is dedicated to maintain and exceed the ever-evolving related demands in the mechanical and heating, ventilating, air conditioning systems. Our journeymen are state licensed. It is common practice to present documentation prior to entering a worksite job for employment. The Lowell Housing Authority requires such documentation. Some of the advantages to using forced labor, I'll briefly describe. Direct cost of material, no markup, and lower overhead. Less profit margin per labor hour worked. Direct control of worksite operations when design conflicts arise. A cooperative working environment among all the trades. All the trades. The local economy benefits through consumer goods and taxes. Our local tradesmen benefit with employment. Mr. Mayor, I am proud to be an advocate of the Merrimack Valley Building Trades at the Lowell Housing Commission Authority. And I believe the residents are best served by the professionalism and skills of the men and women from organized labor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If it pleases the council, I have representatives from our training program, business agents. If you want to ask about our programs, be more than glad to answer them. We have the representatives here, if you'd like to ask. I have a training coordinator right here. I have 2 business agents, and as already spoken, we have other agents here too. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your...
Thank you, Mr. Green. Is there any discussion on the Councilor Mercia?
Well, I think it's just as good as time as any to speak from experience. And I'm not here this evening to defend Gary Wallace or anybody else. I'm only here to say my experience. My husband was a union member for over 30 years. He was the president of Local 39 for 21 years, which is the painters and allied trade. I think now he would appreciate that. Thank you. I believe it's probably Local 35 now. I think they merged with Boston. But I will tell you that we were very proud to be union members by the fact that we were able to take part in the American dream to own a home. But being a union member, it's a seasonal career. In other words, it isn't that you go to work every single day. There were many months that I had to scrape and save and stretch that paycheck out. So it was always a good thing when Norman Ayotte, who was the previous executive director of the Lowell Housing Authority, would call up the business agent, which at the time was Ernie Hamilton, and say, could you send 5 painters down to the Housing Authority? It was music to our ears. It was a matter of putting food on the table for my family or not. So I can appreciate that very highly. My husband was a taxpayer, a Lowellian, and we needed the insurance, because if you didn't at the time work 500 hours, you never got your insurance, and you couldn't buy into it like you can today. I'm very proud of the fact that they did call the hall and get Lowellians and people that were struggling. I had 4 children. It was tough to feed them if you didn't have if you had a long stretch of not having a job. I know we question things. I should have spoke up when the question came up, but I want you to know that I was very grateful and thankful at the time that the business agent would call and say, Ralph, you got a job for another 3 or 4 months. Thank you, dear Lord, I would say. So I can appreciate it. And when you have union workers, whether they're carpenters, laborers, pipe fitters, you have the best. You can reassure you of that. Thank you very
much. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're sitting here, you're just listening for the past few minutes to the different members of the locals coming forward. You think back to the 60s and 70s, and you always saw the commercials, the union label, and the work that went into it. And I'm sitting here listening tonight, the training, the amount of work, the amount of training these individuals put in before they even get some kind of card, and they're qualified to work. I still belong to a union. I'm a retired member of the National Association of Letter Carriers. I represented them for many years as a legislative liaison. So it's good to see the union label is still out there, the quality of work, the quality of training, and the way they do their business today. Thank you.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate the speakers and their members for coming down tonight. We sit here and we don't have a lot of experience sometimes with the building trades. Most of the work that the council interacts with unions or with the public employee unions. But, I know that they've listed very eloquently themselves all the contributions they make to the various redevelopment efforts here in the city. I know personally, my father and brother were members of IBEW. I owe a lot of my success to the good work that unions do on behalf of their members, and appreciative of that. We can take, I think, some pride and some confidence in the fact that these are highly trained workers that are contributing to all the things we work so hard to get going here in the city. All the redevelopment projects of the various mill buildings and others, it's our goal here, my goal since I was elected, and whenever somebody from Boston comes, the governor or lieutenant governor or other representatives, they also, how are you doing up in Lowell? And I think I would speak for all of us when I say the thing we need more than anything are jobs. It's never been unique to Lowell, but in my time here, it's always been the #1 concern. It's the way that we create wealth for future generations is a good job, and a good union job that goes a long way toward providing that future for people's families. So happy to hear from the people tonight and learn a little bit more about these forced labor agreements, because we don't have a lot of experience with them here on the council. But rest assured that we appreciate the work you do on the projects around Lowell, and will remain supportive of your efforts. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the comments from the speakers. I appreciate you coming down. I do have a couple of questions, but I asked questions about forced labor because I have never heard about it before. I had actually filed a motion several months ago asking about the contracts, presuming that $6 million in state and federal money would be bid. That's the state law. That's why I asked the questions about this forced labor account, because I had never heard of it. I'm a contract officer for the federal government. I'd never heard about it before, so I feel an obligation to ask questions, whether it's state or federal or local money, because it's all taxpayer money. I wasn't questioning the veracity of the union individuals and their certifications. I just never heard about it. I don't know what the process is. I still don't know what the process is, other than one of the business managers indicated that I guess Gary Wallace calls for people and he sends them down. That's not the unions. That's not the issue I have with the unions. The issue I have is that there was $6 million in public money that was or is being used with no bids. I just wasn't aware of it. So now I'm learning more about it. I went online and read 24 CFR. That's my concern. That's how this whole thing came about, because of the problems at the housing authority that were brought forward. It's the permitting issue. That's the city's role and responsibility. I mean, the board of directors or the commissioners at the housing authority should be asking many of the questions that this council is asking, because ultimately it's their responsibility. But we are responsible for the permitting aspect of it. And that's why there is a permit. That's why there is a state building code that people have to go by, and there have to be permits pulled and inspections done to ensure the work is being done properly. Everybody makes mistakes. So that was the issue that I had. But I do have a question for any business manager or any individual that spoke. Do you go on any work sites when a permit's not issued? When there's not a permit issued, would any member of the union go on a work site? Okay. And my follow-up, go ahead, sorry.
Yes. Well, most of the times that the projects that we're involved in, most of the times those permits have been pulled, yes. And
so you wouldn't go on a site without a proper building permit? Because my follow-up question would be, whose workers' comp insurance would the workers be covered under if there were no permits?
You're going to have to, all I know is the questions that were asked of the trades. The permit issue is totally separate than a forced labor account, am I correct? The permitting issue has been worked out with the housing authority and the staff at the housing authority. But most of the project that we work on, the permits have been pulled, and then the labor has been able to start from that point when those permits are pulled.
Well, that was my question. I mean, my understanding is that
I have no idea.
You would not go on a site without a proper permit. So, and you answered my question.
Yes, most of the projects that we are involved in, permits have been pulled. Yes, as far as the housing authority is concerned, I had no idea. You know, we have no idea if the permits are pulled. My members don't know if the permits are pulled. They assume those permits have been pulled.
Okay.
I hope that clarifies.
It does. Thank you. Mr. Green, I have a question for you. Were plumber unions, were union plumbers used for the plumbing work over at the housing authority?
No, sir.
Well, and why weren't they?
Well, my understanding, and I can't speak with conviction because I'm still learning, Councilor Elliott. But there's an account that the executive director requested 3 bids, or 3 quotes, and he chose from those quotes. You'd have to speak to the executive director on that, but just to let you know.
Mr. Green, I don't have to speak to the you should be speaking to the executive director. I mean, we're saying that this forced labor account is for union individuals, and I agree, but That's why I asked the question. Why?
Let me ask you something,
why were
Counselor. Let me
plumbers-
ask you something, Counselor.
Certainly.
How do you know I haven't asked them? How do you know that I haven't been asking these important questions, which I agree with you? And that forum is a different forum. It's not for this forum here. What I am saying to you is this. You asked me about the plumbers. The plumbers were non-union. I can't speak for non-union plumbers. I don't know.
Well, I know, you're a commissioner representing union.
Yes.
The union said, that's why I asked you the question, why they weren't
Well,
used. Very
my
simple.
union on this particular project isn't involved. The pipe fitters and plumbers were not used here. Okay?
I understand that, and now that you'd answer that, I want to know why, if it's a forced account labor.
That's a question for the executive director at a different, be more than glad, we meet next Wednesday, come on down.
Great.
Come on down, Counselor, because I can't answer that question. That's his decision.
Again, I'm just asking the questions, that's all. It shouldn't be interpreted
I just gave you the answers, Counselor.
anything other than that. So thank you, Mr. Green. I do appreciate that. Again, just asking questions about the forced labor account because it's, I just had never heard that there is, that $6 million was not bid. So, and one of the speakers did say that there's plenty of union people being working on jobs. UMass Lowell, the bridge. I mean, all those projects were bid. The city projects were bid. You have to pay prevailing wage, and I support that, and that was my point. I don't know where $1.6 million has been saved. That would be a great report or good information. I don't question it. It's just a number I've heard that we've saved that much money. So I think that would be very helpful to get. It wasn't Mr. Patel, the other speaker. So those are the questions. Those are the reasons why I asked. I explained myself. I don't want to reiterate. I don't want to belabor the issue. But I appreciate everybody coming down, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for a chance to speak.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, motion to
Mr. Mayor,
accept.
could I-
Councilor Kennedy.
Can I just ask Mr. Green 2 questions? So there's forced labor for some of the trades, but for the plumbers, it wasn't like that. They went with non-union guys?
Forced labor is a terminology.
Yep.
It's a terminology, okay? All trades can work. They don't all have to be union, or they don't all have to be non-union.
Okay.
It's an open process.
Okay.
If our trades people are fortunate enough to work on there, obviously we're going to go. But no, I can't, like I said, I can't speak for the plumbers because I wasn't, you know.
Okay, but the plumbers have a union, and so why weren't they called? I guess is my question.
Evidently, Council, during the quote process,
Yeah.
The non-union plumbers were lower. Okay. So he selected them.
Okay. How about electricians? Same thing?
That I can't speak on. I have plumber's agent here if you want to talk to him.
Well.
But I think he's going to tell you the same thing. I can't speak for electricians. I believe they went in-house.
Okay.
Okay.
You know, this goes back to a project at the Housing Authority that precedes you. It precedes me. So you and I, neither one of us were in our positions when the project went on. But there was some discussion a while ago about, about who was doing the work. And from the people that came and spoke today, I was left with the impression that everybody was a union guy that was working on that job, but that is not the case.
That is not the case.
Okay. So does anybody know if there were union electricians used or whether they were non-union electricians or?
The in-house union. The in-house union at the Lowell Housing Authority, which is a separate union.
They have their own electricians
That's
at the
correct.
Housing Authority?
That's correct.
Do they have their own plumbers?
Correct.
Okay. But they don't have, do they have every other trade too? No?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
But it's determined by manpower too, Counselor. They don't have enough of the tradespeople in-house
Okay.
to do the work. So that's when it goes out.
Okay.
That's when it goes out. And that's what's nice about this whole process, is that when you say forced, everybody thinks it's forced union. It's not forced union. All have a shot at it.
Okay.
All have a shot at it. As you just asked, the plumbers were non-union. Fine. Fine. They're meeting the criteria too, evidently. So,
Right. I didn't interpret it as being forced, but I did find it to be a curious term. Like Councilor Elliott, I never heard of the term.
if it was used skilled labor, it might be a better term.
Okay,
Skilled labor was used.
okay. All right, so nobody knows, at least nobody here knows, whether or not there were union electricians or union plumbers used on that project back in 2009 or whatever. Nobody, right?
I'm sorry?
The plumbers, were any plumbers used?
If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Timothy Fandel. I'm a business agent with Plumbers and Gas Fitters Local 12. What I can speak to is in a general sense. We have done projects with signatory contractors at the Housing Authority. Relative to this particular project, they may have reached out to some of my signatory contractors. I don't know for certain if they did. It's a facility that we do work at, we bid work at. I'm not sure of the particulars on this project, but we have relationships. We encourage and often bid. But again, I don't want to misspeak relative to this particular project. I would like to think we had people. Again, it's the low qualified bid, and that could have been an open shop contractor in this particular case.
Okay. So, and this is just for me, because there's this one part that I don't get then, is that for the carpenters, for instance, there were carpenters, union carpenters that were on the job?
I believe that was the case.
And is that by bid, or how does that, is there a bid for that?
No, but how it works is that our wages are based on basically the prevailing rate.
Right.
That's being posted out there.
Yeah.
Within $1 or $2, okay? And what the Housing Authority, as it was just in the paper, HUD, I believe, quoted, basically saying that they approved it. Because because they look at it, they review our bids, they put in our numbers, our wages and benefits, and then they look at the project, and then they bid it out at a certain price. Okay? And they're able to have substantial cost savings by doing that, by doing it in-house, because you got to look at the file sub bids and general contractors to put it in profit and overhead. Okay? The Housing Authorities, which just a direct, basically I would get a call for a certain individual to perform a task on that job, whether it's drywall, metal stud, siding, roofs, windows, doors, hardware. That's what we get the call from.
Okay, so that isn't really a bid process, is it? It's just you're getting a call for, send up one guy or
The
two
Housing
guys.
Authority has to put a budget together
Yeah,
and submit it to HUD,
okay,
and they give them the approval.
okay, and that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. It was just in the paper.
But why didn't they do that for the plumbers?
Because some of that goes out, well, I think,
Mr. Manager, and then Councilor Elliott.
I was just going to try to explain the forced labor account. It's really it's a concept or a mechanism that's used to have work done. It doesn't necessarily have to even be outside to an outside group, be they union laborers that are associated with a particular group or a particular local. Oftentimes, we actually use a forced labor account when we did the Central Street project under Chapter 90. It's a mechanism to take grant money and to transfer it over to employees, whether they be permanent employees on an overtime basis or outside laborers that you bring on a temporary basis, like the union construction people that are here tonight. And it's a mechanism that's agreed to by the grantor agency. In this case, the Housing and Urban Development. In the case of Central Street, for us, it's the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, that you can take that money and pay salaries with it. It's a forced labor account. Where the forced comes from, I'm not sure. But many communities use it in that manner. If you're doing construction projects, there are some communities that actually do construction projects, whether it be painting or plumbing or electrical work. They have their own staff on hand that are being paid a salary. But if they need additional work, the grant in that particular case will pay for it out of those temporary work is in a forced labor account.
Okay, I get most of that. I guess the part that I don't get is if for all of the trades, or for most of the trades, the housing authority is using union people, why didn't that also happen with the plumbers?
My understanding, and I could be corrected on this, is that much of that work too was done by in-house, similar to the electrical work, was done by the in-house people that they have. You know, that's a little bit more in their decision as a separate entity. They determined that they could do that work, but to do the larger amount of work that was needed, they had to bring in additional laborers.
Personnel.
Exactly.
Okay. So the plumbers that are at the housing authority, and I guess there are some, I don't know, but I'm assuming from the conversation this evening that there are some plumbers there. They're in a union, they're not in the plumbers union, they're in the housing authority union, their own local, right?
Right.
Okay, all right. And there wasn't enough work that they needed extra people. That's what we're surmising.
Understanding.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Elliott.
So if the forced account process was not used for the plumber, then that work had to be bid, and if it wasn't bid, then it was a violation of the state bid laws.
Well, if it was done in-house and paid in that manner, then they wouldn't have to have
Well,
been
Mr.
bid.
Green just said that it was not, that they had contractors doing it.
Yeah, I said my understanding was in-house, and we could check on that, but my understanding was that was in-house work, just like the electricians. But we can, you know, if the council so chooses, we could check on that.
Well, shouldn't you have checked on it already, Mr. Manager? I mean, we received a report today about permits that are going to be issued.
Again, that's,
So, do we know whether-
those are permitting issues. That isn't associated with the contracting issues, which are not the jurisdiction of the city of Lowell. They're a jurisdiction of the housing authority.
So when you issue the permit, who are you going to issue it to if it was a private contractor?
We would issue it to someone with a license.
Right, so that would have to be a contractor.
No, wouldn't have to be a contractor. It could be any licensed plumber. As long the Lowell Housing Authority, again, my understanding is the Lowell Housing Authority has licensed plumbers on staff, just as the city of Lowell has licensed plumbers on staff.
Which would mean that the forced account process would be used, and if it wasn't, then you have to go out to bid. That is my question. It's not a question, it's a state law, and if you didn't do it, it's a violation of the law. And you have to go out to state bid it, and you have to pay prevailing wage to licensed plumbers, which are union people.
Unless they're on staff, they don't have to be union. But Mr. Bakey has.
Keep in mind, this isn't meant to be a freewheeling discussion here. You'll be recognized by the chair first. You'll speak for twice, and that's it. Mr. Bakey.
Thank you. First of all, much of this discussion now is in a realm that really isn't the cities per se. It's really a matter of whether up to the sort of the housing authority and their commissioners, as some have pointed out. But we have some awareness and knowledge of some aspects of this because indeed people do need to come to us and apply for permits and so forth. And as we've been sorting out the permitting of this project, we've gained some understanding of which techniques they have used for which components of the project. It is our understanding that they have, up till now, used their own in-house employees, their own forces, hence the term forced labor, for the electrical work. They have engaged a variety of sources, including external forced labor, which apparently they have the legal authority to do. It's not something we have necessarily the legal authority to do as the city. Apparently the housing authority does. Our role as the permit grantors doesn't really take into account whether they've bid the project correctly or not. That's not our jurisdiction. But it's our understanding that they've used, as we heard this evening, carpenters and other trades through the unions on a force account basis, which apparently is something they're allowed to do. In terms of the plumbing, what we understand they have done is they have used the state process which allows them to solicit quotes if the scope and the dollar value of the work is below a certain threshold. Apparently, again, we don't know for sure, but apparently they deemed the plumbing that they were asking for quotes for to be under that threshold, whatever, as it were, and they obtained quotes from a number of plumbing contractors. I learned this evening those contractors that they ultimately got the quotes from and used on the job apparently are not union contractors, but they also are not, they were not hired on the force account basis. They were hired as contracts to those particular plumbing contractors. And again, if there's questions about it, really they should be directed at the Housing Authority and their Board of Commissioners, et cetera. But we have to assume that when they say they solicited quotes that they did, and obviously people can research that further, it's not really our jurisdiction. What we need to review, what is our jurisdiction, is when someone comes to us seeking a plumbing permit, a building permit, an electrical permit, or anything else, do they have the proper licensure for that permit, and is the proposed scope of work in conformance with codes? That's the extent of what we review. We do happen to know who's applying, though, and in the case of the plumbing permits, it was a number of private plumbing contractors. Does that help answer the questions?
Thank you. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know, Mr. Baker, if you could answer this. Did you see the bids go out for electrical or plumbing?
Again, we aren't involved in the bidding process. We don't get involved until they have somebody who is, they have made their internal decision about how to award the work. That person then comes to us and asks for a permit. That's how the process typically
The
works.
local union from the plumbers, is he still here? I just have a quick question. Sure. You have bid on work at the LHA?
I have. Well, not personally, my contractors.
local.
Sure.
Part of the bid process, whether it's union or non-union, does it need to be a licensed plumber?
In all cases, it does. A licensed plumber or an apprentice. That's state regulations.
Have you ever seen otherwise over there?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Electrical, anyone from electrical here? Anyone have any experience on the electrical bid? Mr. Green, you're on the board. Is the LHA under any investigation for any of the bidding contracts, or have they been accused of violations by any state agency?
No, sir. Everything has been complied with. And I believe, just to answer Councilor Elliott, there's a threshold, I believe, I'm learning about this as we speak. There's a threshold that can, if it doesn't reach a certain number, let's just use a certain number, they don't have to go outside. But no, to answer your question, all investigations or inquiries about the bidding process has been answered.
In compliance.
In compliant, in the affirmative, yes.
And all the contracts you've seen go out, either ask for licensed plumbers or
That's
electricians?
correct. The Housing Authority requires documentation, licenses, certifications, whichever applies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on
Yeah,
the
Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Under-
Mr. Green, let me answer your
Councilor
question.
Elliott, under Rule 17, we would require
Well, if you want to apply that all the time, fine, but you're not going to just do it selectively with me. This is an important issue.
This
I
is
have
not
some
being done-
questions, and I'm going to
Councilor,
get
you're
them
out of
answered,
order.
okay? Thank you.
Councilor, we're going to entertain a motion to suspend the rules first. You were the only one who has spoken more than twice.
Well, if you would have recognized me so I could have some follow-up questions to Mr. Bakey,
Councilor
then
Elliott,
I would
I
have
will
asked for...
entertain a motion
okay?
to suspend the rules.
And
Motion
second
to
it.
suspend the rules by Councilor Kennedy.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.
Requires a roll call.
Councilor Elliott.
Mr. Green, I'll just give you that information. It's a $10,000 threshold that you have to solicit 3 bids. After $25,000, there's a formal bid process under the state procurement regulations in Massachusetts. So that is the, I'm going to presume that threshold was exceeded, but we don't know. I think it's our complete responsibility to ask these questions, Mr. Manager and Mr. Bakey. I don't know, all I keep hearing is it's my understanding. If I were in your position, I'd be on the phone daily with the executive director or the commissioners to find out what is the process. How was this money used? Because we had the responsibility of the permit. These gentlemen went in, they didn't even know whether there were permits or not. That is not their responsibility. It's the responsibility of the city of Lowell, and it's your responsibility, Mr. Manager.
It's my...
Excuse me, are we going to abide by the rules, Mr. Mayor?
Councilor
Thank
Elliott.
you, thank you.
We will.
Because I do have the floor. So as far as I'm concerned, it is our responsibility to ask these questions. It is a quasi-public agency. It's part of the city of Lowell. because we are the permitting authority. And had this been followed up from day one, we wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be asking questions about forced account labor. So I am going to ask these questions. I'm not questioning the veracity of these union members. By the way, I'm a union member, but I still have a responsibility to ask questions for the people and the taxpayers that elect me. And that's why I asked about forced labor. And if you don't think it's your responsibility, well, it is. It's ours, because we are the permitting authority to make sure proper permits are pulled, and that contractors do have their licenses, or anyone doing work over there.
Are you finished? Councilor
I'm not
Martin.
sure.
Well, I think, part of the responsibility of asking the questions is listening to the answers. So why don't we hear from the manager about what he was going to say and answer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Manager, under suspension of the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor. The answer I had is that we do our job. I take offense to very honestly with the characterization that the city is not doing its job. The city administration was the one that stepped in and required that permits be pulled for the first time. The city administration was the one that stepped in and said that we think that there should be a payment made for the fees associated with that. It's the city's responsibility to make sure there's permits. It's the city's job to make sure that there are inspections done and that everything is done up to code. It's not the city's administration's responsibility or the city of Lowell's responsibility to make sure that everything is bid properly. That is not our responsibility. We do not do that with any other private operation or any quasi-public operation. Our job is very simple, to make sure that there are permits, to make sure that there are inspections, to make sure it's done according to code. We have done that. We did have problems along the early lines of this. We recognize that was in large part, along with a number of other issues, why the Office of Inspectional Services was reorganized, restructured, and we got very good, qualified people in place to run that part of the organization. And I think the fact that the council has been receiving regular reports that are very detailed and very clear in the steps that are being taken to rectify this matter are evidence that the reorganization, the restructuring was the right thing to do, and we're seeing the results of it not only in the Housing Authority, but across the city in what they're doing with enforcement, what they're doing with aggressive efforts to crack down on code violations and various issues around the city.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Kennedy.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming down here this evening. I think it's been a good discussion. I don't think there's a motion on the floor. So could we move on with the agenda if everybody's all done with this?
Well, under suspension of the rules, there's still an opportunity for each of the councilors who haven't had an opportunity to speak. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to thank everyone for coming down. I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that there are people behind some of the talk, and I want you to understand that we do appreciate the work of the unions and the money that it saves, and the fine work that you've done in the city in all these projects, whether it's private or public, and the great benefit to both our local union members who are getting the work and to our city in terms of the fine work that you do and the training. I think it's every once in a while it's something like this comes up and we get some good out of it, and that is that you're down here and you explain what you do when you're training and the process and the people that actually benefit. So I think everybody here appreciates that, and thank you for coming down and taking the time. I'm sure most of you start your day very early, so appreciate you sticking around for this. And as far as the permitting versus the contracting issues, I think we clearly have two separate issues. One of which we have jurisdiction, the permits, and the other is in terms of contracting, we can request, and we did, and we can get whatever information is forwarded to us. But I don't necessarily think it's fair to hold the city manager accountable for the bidding process over at the Lowell Housing Authority any more than it would be at the Hamilton Canal or over at Lowell General or UMass Lowell or the state that's doing the work on the bridge. But I think that we have to make sure we make a distinction here in terms of the permitting, and it's being handled, and hopefully it's resolved in the near future, and everything's handled appropriately. But I think we have to understand that we have two separate issues here. The contracting and the bidding is really outside of our jurisdiction, and we ought to at least understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too like to thank all the union members for being here. I learned an awful lot tonight. I know the issue has been ongoing as soon as I came on, and even before that, the issue with Lowell Housing Authority. Tonight, I learned that you can bet, or you can, hire staff, in this case, plumbing and electricians in-house who is union. I also learned that, you also put it to bed to carpenters that speaker before spoke tonight. I concur with some of my colleagues that there's two separate issues. That is one pertaining to contract and betting. It's not within our authority to dictate it as to whether or not the Lowell Housing Authority put it to bed. Our authority as a permitting agencies, I learned that we issue permit. I know that mistake been made in the past, and a step has been taken to correct it. And I wish that we all put this to rest and move on, because it's been too long. There's so many other issues that's important and dear to us in the city, particularly the downtown issues that we need to step up and address. I again thank all the union members for being here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Donza.
I do appreciate the speakers coming down and educating us on what this was. I can honestly say I didn't know what it was a week ago. Now, 2 weeks ago. Now I know much more than probably I need to know. So I do appreciate the people taking the time. At this time, just in the interest of moving things along, I'd like to move to accept the communication, place on file.
Motion by Councilman Donza, second by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Being well after 7 p.m. Councilman Donza.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Under the suspension of the rules, are there any other items on the agenda for which people have registered to speak?
No, they're not, Councilor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Nobody registered to speak. Okay. Do the public hearing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Under suspension of the rules, we also have item 16, Joseph P. Mahoney, Chairman of the Lowell Retirement System, requests to increase the stipend for its board members.
Good evening, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, city manager. I'm here this evening to, on a local option, increase the board members' stipend, Section 34, Chapter 176 of the Acts of 211. I would like to say I'm from that section that they said it was in Italian. I like the way they said it. I thought it was kind of romantic. It isn't what the guys on the plows call it. But anyway, yeah, I'm here tonight to represent the 5 members of the board. And the reason the legislature and the governor decided to pass this, I suppose they looked at all the changes they came up with in the last few months. I was talking to Joe Connor today, the Public Employees Retirement Administration, He's the one that oversees the 105 retirement boards. And I asked him, I said, is it that we have to go as a local option before the local council when they passed it in the State House? But everything that comes out of the State House in the last 16 years is a local option. I think somebody bought a stamp down there. They just put it on local option. But that's where we're at. And I'm asking you tonight for your support in the increase from $3,000 to $4,500. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney.
Pardon me?
I would entertain a motion to refer this to the Law Department for review, but Councilor Martin?
This is the 5 members?
Pardon me?
5 members? How many members?
Okay.
How many members? 5?
5.
And are we at the 3,000?
$1,500 increase
$1,500 each?
apiece.
Okay.
Councilor Mendoza?
I know that in the write-up, they said that the funds would come from the retirement system itself. But when I looked into it, we're currently contributing about $15 million a year from the city budget to this because we're not fully funded in our liability. And so it seems to me that whatever earnings they're making aren't enough at the moment from their investments. So I do believe that if we do increase the expenses of the retirement system, that in essence we'll be increasing our liability and we'll have to contribute a little more until it's fully funded to make up the difference. Through the mayor, I don't know if the manager would like to comment.
Mr. Manager?
Well, I think it's, I guess, Counselor, it's, I'm not sure we necessarily have to add more in. We do have an unfunded liability. There's no doubt about that. And that's largely a result of the system being underfunded or not properly funded years ago. And that's what's leading to us having to contribute as much as we do until the year 2032, I think we're at now, thereabouts. And the remaining money that comes in, that is each employee, active employee, currently pays in between 7 and 11% of their salary to the retirement fund and the retirement accounts that are managed by the retirement board. And I don't know off the top of my head how much that is, but I would think that that would be a fairly sizable amount of money that the employees themselves are contributing into the retirement account.
That's from our generated budget, by the way. That's what he says on here. That's from our generated budget, not from local option. I mean, the level funding.
Correct.
Level funding has a separate schedule.
Right. Just by way of explanation, you know, the retirement board has not taken a position on this. They're not really allowed to take a position on this, but this is a local option in that there were certain changes under the pension reforms that have taken place. Not so much the case here in the city of Lowell, but there are other retirement systems out there that weren't properly trained or properly received the proper education in terms of investments and in terms of the operation. There have been a number of problems in retirement systems across the Commonwealth. And so and there were other issues with regards to conflict of interest that necessitated some changes in the pension systems or the pension laws that require now that each member of the retirement board go through training on an annual basis. That's additional hours on top of what they're already putting in on a monthly basis, either in meetings or in receiving communications from members of the retirement system. And they also are required to do full disclosure of all of their personal finances. And that in itself is an extensive process. So the legislature, recognizing that there were going to be these additional burdens, left open the opportunity at the local level, at that local option, to compensate the members for that additional time and that additional inconvenience. So that's by way of background to how this comes before you.
Well, I know there was a change in legislation to allow it, and gives us a range between 3,000 and 4,500. Am I to assume that they're already at the $3,000?
That's correct.
Correct.
I did, and no offense to the people serving now, I'm just asking these questions. I mean, I did research what other boards and commissions are making, and generally, it's $1,300 is the highest that I found in our budget. So, in a sense, to me, that this board's already paid substantially more than others, and so I don't understand the burdens on each of them, how many times a month they meet, you know, how fair is this versus the other boards. So I'm willing to have it sent to the, wherever, the law department for review, as I believe was motion.
I think maybe you're talking about appointed boards. These are elected boards. Two of us on the board are elected. The auditor is a member of virtue of her office as the auditor, and Tom Moses is the chief financial officer of the administration, and he's a member. There's 5 members, and they all bring something to the table. And we elect the 5th member from the 4 of us, and that's Michael Brennan. He's the clerk magistrate of Lowell Superior Court. So they all bring a lot to the table.
Thank you.
More so than it would be an elected thing. It was an ongoing thing of just approving things that we could throw a lot of work on the retirement board, a lot of work. And now with the training, it's breaking up everybody's time. I mean, the people, they're going to have to take personal days off to go to these training sessions. And this is all new this year. And they're all over the state. Some are down at the Cape. Some are up in Westfield, up in Springfield. I mean, it takes a lot of time. And just the time alone reading all these memos from PARAC takes days. Believe me, it takes days.
Hopefully not days.
And
Councilor Mercia?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Joe, how often do you meet?
Well, we meet once a month, but
Once a
we
month?
have, there was one case we had, I had spent 4 days up in the solicitor's office trying to decide with all the lawyers and everything else up there. I mean, you get caught into that stuff, and you can't say no, or I can't make it.
And you have to brush up on the rules and...
Oh, these rules are coming. The guy was telling me today, he says, there's more to come, Joe. That's what he told me this afternoon. Joe Connaughton, he's the executive director of PARAC. And he admitted it. He said, boy, you're getting a lot of memos from me. He said, and yes, we are. It isn't something that, you know, like I said, this is, 2 of us are elected elected members, and, you know, it takes a lot of our time. It takes everybody's time.
Thank you.
We could all use a brush up. Councilor Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Aside from the hours, is there any personal responsibility you have being on the board?
Well, I'm here twice a week. I go down to the retirement board, and I discuss it with the administrator, everything that's coming up, stuff that is on the agenda. Yeah, I put a lot of time down here, too much time. I got a ticket the other day.
And if there's a loss on the
I
board...
got a letter today saying how much I owe them, but that's all right.
As far as the two, the auditor and Mr. Moses, do you garner the salary also, or is that part of your work salary, where you're there as part of the city?
No, that's on top of it.
That's on top. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott?
Do all other boards get paid? I'm just trying to think if there are some that, the Conservation Commission, do they get a stipend?
Not by the, Adam shaking his head.
I don't believe they do.
I could speak for the
Planning board.
105 retirement boards in the city.
No,
I mean, in
I'm
the
just,
state.
I'm just curious what some of the other boards
I believe the
get
Board
paid.
of, Board of Appeals receives pay, Planning Board
are
receives
they-
compensation,
How much do they
Conservation
get
Commission, Board of Health. Conservation does not receive compensation, that's
No,
what you were saying.
I don't think so.
But the Board of Health does. I believe, as Councilman Donza said, it's 1,000 to 1,300.
Oh, that was
I think the
kind of the average of all of the other city boards.
right. If I may, the differentiation though is the retirement boards across the Commonwealth are all at the $3,000 level.
And the stipends for the boards is in the budget as well. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Councilor Kennedy?
Just quickly, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager, did you just say that most of the other retirement boards are at $3,000?
Yes.
So none of them have exercised this option to raise the salary?
Well, let me rephrase that. They were all at the maximum. I don't know what the current state is of other communities or retirement systems. Councilor, I'm sure you know the many of the towns are outside of. They don't have a single retirement system. They belong to the Middlesex or one of the other county old county retirement systems. But in terms of the cities that have their own retirement system, that's what I was referring to. But I don't know how many have already. Okay. This is a fairly new.
Because I think that should be the comparison. Should be other retirement boards in other cities, not necessarily the Conservation Commission or the Board of Appeals. I mean, it's just this kind of not to minimize the responsibility of any of those boards and commissions, but this is important, the Retirement Commission. And so I just think that if you're going to make a comparison like that, it should be to other cities that have retirement boards.
Most cities are at the maximum of 3,000 now, and they're all can be brought up to, under this legislation.
Okay, so everybody's at 3 as far as what you
correct,
know. Correct. But everybody would probably be entertaining going to
That's correct,
45.
yes, that's correct. Like the state now automatically go up because they don't have to go before their town fathers, they just go what the legislature goes with.
Okay.
And that's fair, I mean, it's unfair for us where we have to come before the local board.
Right. And our parameters then would be from 3,000 up to 4,500, so that we could make it 4,000 or 3,500 or.
Well, the legislature made the rules in 4,500. I mean, the legislation.
Right, but if I think the way the legislation reads, it's to a maximum of 45, right?
Correct.
I don't think it does. No. No,
I believe that's.
Yeah.
It calls out 4,500.
It says 45 as a maximum, though, not.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott?
What is the motion? To refer the issue to, just refer to the law department for
review, to
for
bring
review,
back to the council.
not prepare any.
Well, I would think that we would.
Prepare a vote for the city council?
I don't, was the intent of the maker of the motion?
I don't believe we Councilor
Well,
Martin?
I'd make a motion to refer it to the law department for a proper vote. If we're accepting, state legislation, it has to come for a vote, and then has to be held for a week. There's a whole process for that. So my motion is to start that process.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney.
Yep.
Next, we'll move to the public hearing, being well after 7 o'clock. Utility public hearing for National Grid and Verizon New England pole location at Pawtucket Street. And this is so we'll open it up at this time for those wishing to speak in favor.
My name's Dave Aguirre. I'm representing National Grid. National Grid would like to install a pole on Pawtucket Street. It's a half pole. This pole is going to serve the construction of the bridge.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition to the petition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council?
Refer
Motion
to
to
the
refer.
wire inspector for the...
Motion to refer to the wire inspector by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Excuse me, roll call, please.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilor Laurie?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Broderick. Yes. 9 yeas.
Thank you. Resuming the city clerk's portion of the agenda, we have for acceptance minutes of the special meeting of February 16th, City Council, February 21st, the Flood Issues Subcommittee, February 21st, the Finance Subcommittee, February 21st, and the Youth Services Subcommittee, February 22nd. A special meeting of February 28th. What's the wish of the council? Motion by Council Mendonça, seconded by
Move
Council
approval.
Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. We have under unfinished business, in order, the taking and acceptance of Technology Drive from the 21st of February City Council meeting. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. In City Council, order of taking and acceptance of Technology Drive to take by eminent domain and fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Technology Drive and other municipal purposes associated therewith. What's the wish of the council? Move for approval by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Broderick. Roll call, please.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy. Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendonça.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Broderick.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have under city manager's portion of the agenda, communications from the city manager, responses to city council motions and requests. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. In our packet, we had the minutes of the meeting of the Cemetery Commission, and they said that they had reviewed the new rules and policies and amendments adopted on November 14th from the for all municipal cemeteries. I'd like a copy of the new rule book as given out to a person that purchases a cemetery plot. If we could have a copy of the book in our packet for next Friday, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you to the manager. What wasn't in the packet was, I thought that we were going to be entertaining what we were going to do about the bars in downtown. And I thought that would be on the agenda this week, and it's not. So when will it be? Will it be on next week, or?
I believe it will
where
be
are we
on
with
next
that?
week. I'll let the solicitor speak to that. There was a meeting held late last week. Scheduling was an issue with Commissioner Occasion that delayed, so that we got some feedback on that. But I'll let the solicitor speak.
Correct. We had a meeting on Thursday of last week with Commissioner Occasion, as well as Ryan Wynn, the police chief, and myself, and we reviewed internally the proposed rules changes. I anticipate fully that we'll be getting the, after that meeting, there were some changes that we're going to be making, and those should be available for the council packet for this coming Friday.
If I do, so it should be on the agenda for next week?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the packet, I did see information on apartments and special services. I had requested the information on how much is a landlord fined if he has the illegal apartment. Well, Mr. Bakey's here, I don't know if he has that information.
I apologize, Councilor, I actually don't have that off the top of my head, but we can certainly get it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on the motions? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. We received the report regarding the sprinkler system, Mr. Manager, and I actually, there's really not much in this report, but I would like a copy of the report from the chief on exactly what guidelines were used and how this decision was arrived at. But I have to tell you, I read the article in the newspaper today, and I'm shocked that sprinklers are not going to be required to be placed in those units. I'm shocked because I went and I read the section, the chapter and section, the citation, and as I read it, it's clear. I want to read it. That any building hereafter constructed or hereafter substantially rehabilitated so as to constitute the equivalent of new construction and occupied in whole for residential purposes, and it goes on to cite the certain boarding houses, fraternity houses, dormitories, I won't go through all of them, shall be equipped with an approved system of automatic sprinklers in accordance with the provision of the state building code. This is clearly substantial rehabilitation. The walls were, the units were demolished down to the studs with wiring, new wiring, plumbing. I don't understand what that decision was made on based upon what the law says. And we don't have anything in the packet giving the fire chief's explanation. Maybe you can provide that to us.
I'll see if there is a written document. The fire chief, under the statute, if you read the full statute there, Counselor, the fire chief is or his designee, is the decision maker with regards to that, and he has some discretion with regards to that. And I can assure you that this fire chief has been, much to the dismay of many, has been a strong advocate of sprinklers where he believes they are needed, and he also makes the judgments when in fact they are not needed. He makes those decisions, and he made that decision in this case.
Isn't this a no-brainer, Mr. Manager? The law says if it's substantially rehabilitated, and it went down to the walls, to everything, ceilings were taken out, walls, strip, wiring, etc. That, to me, says that it's substantially rehabilitated. You know, what's interesting is we require private companies to install a sprinkler system. I can recall just a short time back, there was quite a discussion about it, big construction. And they had to put sprinklers in because it was over 4 units. We're talking about over 132, and the whole scope of the project is 330. How can that not be substantially rehabilitated? I suggest we get a ruling from the Attorney General and or the Inspector General. It's a suggestion, Mr. Manager. You don't want to go the full extent, it's up to you. But that's my suggestion, because as far as I'm concerned, these units were substantially rehabilitated. I don't know what else. We're not changing a light fixture or faucets here. They were completely rehabilitated, and to me, what I read the law says it should be, sprinkler system should be in. I think we'll open up a can of worms. Private developers are out there watching now saying, well, the housing authority doesn't have to do it, but private developers have to. And I think it's a slippery slope that we're going down if that's allowed to happen. So I would like a copy of the report. And if you're telling me there's no report, there was no deliberation, there was no written memo to you on how he came to this decision, I certainly would ask for one.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Kennedy.
Mr. Mayor, you know, I read the article that Councilor Elliott is talking about, and I'm sure that the fire chief had a good reason for making his decision, and that it's based on sound facts. But what's bad is that the fire chief had to know this is a controversial thing. He should explain the decision. It's just, that's what astounded me, was that he didn't explain it. And so I think before we go further with this, I mean, before we go to the Attorney General or anything else, that it would be prudent to get an opinion from the fire chief as to why he made the determination that sprinklers were not required. And when you ask for that recommendation, I'd also point out to him that on issues like this that are somewhat controversial, that are in the paper, an explanation is required. It's just good public relations. And I'm surprised that he didn't. So anyways, if we could get that from the fire chief, I think that would be a good thing. I mean, I'm sure he's got a good reason for it, and that everything's fine, but he should explain that, because everybody doesn't, there are people who think that probably there should have been sprinklers there. So if the fire chief's gonna make that determination, he should be able to back it up with some explanation.
Mr. Manager.
I'll let Mr. Councilor Laurie.
Sorry, Councilor Laurie.
Sitting here tonight is Mr. Bakey, and I was just going to ask if he would like to talk on the issue. He may know, or he may not know why, or he might give some insight.
Mr. Bakey.
Good evening again. First off, let me stress that this is an area of jurisdiction of the fire department, not development services. But the process of reviewing the code analysis that was prepared by the architects representing the Lowell Housing Authority and their code consultants was done in conjunction by the two departments. So the memo to the council, just summarizing the results of those discussions, was from us. What the fire chief explained to us in his reasoning for why he felt that this particular property did not meet the requirements of requiring sprinklers in this case is a sort of a multi-part test. First of all, and very significantly, while there were a large number of units that are being renovated, there are not except with one exception, no individual building of this complex had a majority of its units renovated. And one of the thresholds that the fire department has explained to us that they typically use for determining, as has been pointed out, what constitutes the substantial rehabilitation of a building so as to equal new construction is doing a majority of the building. The reality is, in this case, in most of these buildings, the majority of the building was actually not touched at all as part of this renovation. They were, the way the Housing Authority, and again, it's up to them, the way the Housing Authority has decided to proceed with this project is to do individual units throughout a variety of buildings at the complex. Why they chose to do that is really, I have no idea, but that's what they chose to do. Secondly, the nature of the work in question, while not an insignificant amount of work, as has been discussed at length, is in each individual unit is not, in the fire chief's opinion, the equivalent of building a unit. What they essentially did, they've essentially furred out walls interior to the existing walls of the building. They actually did not demolish the existing walls of the building before they started the project. There've been a lot of replacement of fixtures and upgrades of that sort, but not the kind of substantial overall replacement of full systems of the buildings and so forth. And then finally, the fire chief felt that the nature of the construction of the property itself, mostly being masonry and cement, was, if there was any gray area, if it were wood frame construction that was all combustible materials, he would, and has frequently, I know, erred on the side of saying, if there's any question, sprinklers are required. In this case, first of all, he felt that really they haven't crossed the threshold to begin with, but if there is any remaining question, the nature of the construction of these buildings is such that their risk of combustion is much less than if they were framed with wood. Again, I'm not the fire department, I'm not the fire chief, I'm only relaying what he has conveyed in the discussions. And ultimately, he is conveying that based on the code analysis, his review and essentially agreement with the code analysis that was conducted by the licensed architect and code consultant engineers that the Lowell Housing Authority was required to engage to review the code compliance of the project. In a normal project, this happens at the beginning. We understand that this is not a normal project in that respect, but the process and the decision-making is along the same lines as are applied to other properties. And I've been involved in conversations with the fire chief on many other properties about this type of issue. My staff has been much more involved with him much more often, and I can certainly vouch for what the manager said, that this fire chief tends to be very conservative in these regards. So if he felt that it was not necessary here, that's his decision, and I definitely have a lot of respect for his decision-making.
Thank you, Mr. Bakey. Mr. Manager?
I don't think, Mr. Mayor, I don't think I have anything to add. I just, you know, this project has just, every single week we come in here and we go through this over and over and over, and I appreciate the concern that some people have for this, but I do think that this is, and I say this with the utmost respect, but I do think that this is approaching just being a witch hunt. Every week we read more newspaper stories that seem to be manufactured to talk about asbestos or lead or sprinklers or bidding, on and on and on and on. The bottom line is that units at the Lowell Housing Authority have been improved. That's a benefit to the people who live there. That's a benefit to the community. There have been local people that have been hired. The way that they have done this, they have done it in a way that has not forced the relocation of people for the most part. There's going to have to be some of that now, but the way the Housing Authority has attempted to do this is to pick off units one at a time, and that's why they haven't gone out and done a total tear the place apart and rebuild it. It's also the reason that they bid or they worked with the plumbers the way that they did, that they and the other contractors, and the way they hired the union people that were here earlier tonight, so that they could just do 5 units at a time that happened to be empty. Come in, do the work, make the units available for somebody else to move into, wait a period of time until there's another 5 or 6 units, go in, do the work, move on, let some people move into that. There was an issue with permitting. That is an issue that is, again, as I said earlier in the meeting, you know, we noticed that. It was brought to the attention of the administration of my office by then Commissioner Camacho. We identified the problem, told the Lowell Housing Authority they had to get permits, they had to go through inspections, which they had never done before. We told them they had to pay fees. So we got fees, we got permits, we got inspections, we got people working, we got better units. There was no asbestos issues, there were no lead issues. There are no sprinkler issues, according to the fire chief, who has that discretion. Yet every single week we come in and go through this over and over and over again. We have a responsibility to make sure they're permitted. We have done that. We have made a responsibility to make sure they're inspected. We're doing that. We do not have control over how they bid the projects and how they manage those projects. We do what we do, they do what they do. But I do think that this is just lagging on and on and on. We're giving reports, but I do think it's, as I said, I think it's approaching a witch hunt phase here, and I sense, you know, that people are just anxious to find something else that's wrong here, when in fact there's nothing wrong, and a lot of good has come out of this.
Any further? Councilor Elliott.
There's been a lot of wrong here, Mr. Manager. And I find it amazing that you're sitting here defending this process. This has been going on since 2008. And it continues to be at the city council meeting because we get reports, and I read the reports, and because I don't agree with the reports, or there's not enough information, there's not adequate information, I'm going to ask questions. There's no witch hunt. If there were no problems, people wouldn't be asking questions. You may think so, and you're entitled to that. There's no witch hunt, but we're going to ask questions because people living in those units are entitled to the same protection, the same safety issues as everybody else in this city.
Absolutely.
So when you say that, you know, week after week, yeah, week after week, because there are many, many problems over there, starting with permit issues. And you said permits have been issued. Mr. Manager, this is the latest memo. It said it's expected that LHA will submit a final code analysis to Development Services within the coming weeks. Following the submission, Development Services will issue building permits and begin the process of inspecting units and issuing certificates of occupancy.
Mm-hmm.
You just said permits are issued. This said permits have not been issued yet.
Some permits have been issued. And in the I should also add that the
Well,
Inspector
maybe that
General...
should be included in this, so we won't have this discussion.
The Inspector General has been out on this project. They find nothing wrong. HUD has reviewed
Did you ask
this.
the
They
Inspector
find nothing
General
wrong.
about the process, about any of the contracting and bidding process? He came out and said, yeah, what you're going to do to fix this mess is okay. That's what the memo said. So It's unfortunate you feel that we can't ask these questions, but when I read a law and I see what's taking place and the standard that we set for private companies, I think that it should be consistent across the board. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the one thing that's been said that I really don't think is true at all is the great concern that people have for the people living in those units. I think the people that are living in those units are being used as pawns in and frankly, I concur with many of the manager's sentiments that there's a kind of gotcha attitude about this project, and people are looking to find something wrong, to pin something to blame, whether it's on the manager or Mr. Wallace or Housing Authority commissioners. Certainly, they should have pulled permits. That's been well documented at the time. At the time, it was a great success. The manager had agreed with the Housing Authority on a flat fee, a yearly fee for certain units. It was celebrated here as a big victory. Now, all of a sudden, it's a scandal. But these people now, where there is essentially nothing wrong in their unit, are going to be forced to relocate, the exact opposite of what was originally intended. And I think it's for a political gain or perceived political gain that some people, not necessarily here in the council, but, you know, let's face it, people are in public jobs, they make enemies, and there are people taking shots at various people all over the city, people feeding information, calling radio stations, all sorts of things are going on. And there are many reasons for that, but I think I am very suspicious that any of it has to do with the welfare of the people living in those units.
Any further discussion on the communications from the city manager? Councilor Kennedy.
So can we find out why the fire chief made that determination?
I will ask the fire chief to document exactly what
Thank you.
Mr. Bakey has said and anything else he wants to add.
Thank you. Councilman Mendonça.
On a different item, there was also communication in our packet regarding the Neighborhood Innovative Grant Program Awards. If someone from the administration could comment on this. I mean, I find it very important in the sense that it's not the amount of money that's being granted, it's the fact of these groups and a number of people that are going to invest in these projects in our neighborhoods. And I think that's an important, and I don't want it to get lost in our packet. I think it's an important initiative going on in our neighborhoods.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Councilor. I'll be happy to, and I'm sure Mr. Bakey will jump in as well. But this is actually an idea that was initiated, I guess I would say, by Allegra Williams, our neighborhood planner, working with the neighborhood organizations and hearing about their efforts to become engaged in their sections of the city and make improvements to their sections of the city. There was an idea generated that she brought to Mr. Bakey, and it was approved at his level and brought up to mine, and likewise approved, that we would provide these seed monies to these neighborhood organizations that would then go out and make improvements that would draw upon building partnerships and collaborations with other organizations, and at the end result being a better community and one that they feel they're a part of, because clearly they are an important part of this community. They are the community that generates these projects, and so it's really citizen engagement, community improvement, and whether it be the community gardening and gardens and vermicomposting of 7 partnering organizations in the Acre, Hadley Field skate park revitalizations that have been done in honor of John Delahanty, which I know, I believe that Councilor Mercier raised this issue some time ago, that Greater Lowell Technical High and different youth organizations are improving Hadley Field Skate Park, the Lowell Free Wi-Fi with LTC, the Acre Youth Center, CBA for generating a Wi-Fi that would be made available to residents of the area. The Revolving Museum and the Burmese Volunteer Group doing a promotional documentary about the construction of traditional looms and weaving workshops that highlight the textile history of the city, flowers and flags of the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group and the Global War Veterans Group, to a patriotic gesture to beautify their neighborhoods and put flowers and flags throughout that section of the city, the Celebration of Diversity Festival with the CMAA and different refugee advocacy organizations to have a day-long event to celebrate the cultures of our newest immigrant groups of Cambodia, Iraq, and Burma. The Gauge Goes Green to, we've been talking about making Lowell truly a sustainable city, and this effort will increase recycling at Gage Field, and it's a combination of the McAuliffe School PTO, the Centerville Baseball League, and Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. So all of these involve literally thousands of people that are part of this process and organizations, and the end result really is a better community here in the city of Lowell. But thank you for the opportunity to speak on that.
I'd like to go on to another item in our packet.
Sure.
And it warrants attention, if nothing else, for the sheer size of it. And it's regarding a regional 911 center. And from what I read, it has the potential for substantial savings to the city, while at the same time providing for better advancement for the people that would work and that are currently in our employees that may lack that advancement may have more opportunity for a regional center that they were working at. And so I would ask if the manager could summarize for us what this is all about.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Council, you just basically summarized the whole thing there. But basically, essentially, this is an effort that has been ongoing for a period of time through the efforts of the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments and the area towns, as well as the city, to look at the possibility of a regional 911 center, or an emergency communication center. Deputy Superintendent Friedel and Mike Herbert have been involved in this for the city of Lowell, and the police chiefs and the representatives of the other communities have also been involved with it, studying it and looking at it to see if there's some opportunities here for savings and improved service. It's a priority of the state administration, the Patrick administration, to move forward with greater regionalization of 911 centers. Massachusetts, and I don't recall the number off the top of my head, but we don't have quite 351 different dispatch centers here in the Commonwealth, but we have more than most states. Far more than most states. And there are opportunities here for redundancy, for cost savings, and for better compensated and better trained staff. Many communities don't have the quality of staff that we happen to have, just by nature of the fact that we are a city. But this study has shown that there is the potential for savings here and improved service. And so we think it's worth continuing to work with our neighbors and look to see if this can move forward or should move forward. I should note that the state is funding a good part of the technology that goes with this, funding regional 911 centers. They will not fund individual community 911 centers that have to have the new technology to correspond to the cellular technology that's out there now. Which is why, in part, I think most of the calls go to the state police now. When we get the new equipment, we'll be able to handle those calls within the regional dispatch center.
I believe they were given a grant to do this feasibility study, which we have now, and I believe they're ready to move into the next phase, which I believe may also entail other grants. So what do we need to do if we want to continue with the process? Is there anything we need to do?
Certainly a vote of support would be great. I intend to move forward as city manager with participating in this. But one thing that might be worthwhile, I think, is to have a meeting of the Public Safety Subcommittee to review the information in this. And I should note that the police chief, fire chief, Deputy Friedel are all on board with this. We had a meeting a couple months ago in a neighboring community where the report was presented, and there was support. The only communities that I believe have opted not to participate in this are Westford and Billerica have decided not to participate in this. They still have separate fire and police centers within their own community. We've got one single one here in the city, so they're not ready to move the next step yet to regionalization. But the other surrounding communities, Drake at Tingsboro, Chelmsford, Tewksbury, and some other smaller communities, Groton have chosen to do this.
All right, I think I'll go along with your recommendation and move that we refer this to the Public Safety Subcommittee for recommendation.
Motion by Councilman Johnson,
Second.
second by Councilor Mercy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Councilor Lowry and then Councilor Broderick.
No, actually, that was an issue I was going to ask about. I read the report, and actually, it's a two-part report. One is on the 911 center, and the second part is on a lockup.
Right.
I have a lot of concerns on being a part of a regional center, costas and everything. Local knowledge, I think, plays a lot into it. When you look at the report, the Lowell Police Department does a good job. They were cited as doing, the city does do a good job. I don't know if I'm having a heart attack, do I want someone in the town of Groton trying to distinguish if I'm talking about Varnum Ave or Varnum Street, one in Pawtuckaville and one in Centerville, or Chase Street and Chase Ave, one in Back Central, and, that you're gonna lose that local, and it's something I'm a little concerned about. But I would defer it to the public safety officials, obviously. On the lockup, one thing I found interesting is you might want to insist they have cameras. Some states, and I think New Hampshire might be one, they do the arraignment right from the lockups now. You don't have to bring them into the courts. They have cameras stationed right in the lockups, and they do arraignments. So, I mean, that would save on insurance and travel costs and things like that. But those were my thoughts, and of course, I would defer to the chief and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. And actually, as part of the report, I think it might have been mentioned that there's a number of things in the technology which identify all the common knowledge of the various towns and cities so that you don't run into that problem. But I'm sure that will come up during the subcommittee discussion. Sure. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. I was just going to refer the report as well. Maybe if we get the information for the downtown in the packet this coming week, we could next Tuesday select a date that everyone's available to schedule the Public Safety Subcommittee, maybe the following week.
Mr. Manager?
Just so I guess that's more geared to your colleagues on the council, but are you suggesting that the liquor regulations would go into a Public Safety Subcommittee next Tuesday? Well, and then this issue at the same time, or would this be a separate? I think the liquor regulations may take some period of time, and it's.
We can keep them separate. It hasn't been referred yet in any event, so I guess what we can do is schedule this one, and then we'll do take the liquor separate.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would just want to point out that Councilor Lowry is the city's representative to the council and governments, and so we'd probably, if this issue is going to move forward, it would probably make sense to have him involved and participate with that subcommittee. I don't think he's a member of the subcommittee, but that, at least for this issue, that makes sense to me. I mean, I'm not trying to make more work for Councilor Lowry, but he is retired, and he probably has the time.
Looking for something to do. No, I'd be happy to sit in because I will be taking the vote, I'm sure, at NEMCOG, and but I would defer it to public safety and the wishes of the city and the council.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, I think it's a great idea because I know NIMCOG has been talking about it. This won't actually be a NIMCOG organization. This would be a separate. So I don't know if there's ever going to be a vote, but I think it's very useful to have you involved, Council.
They're involved, I know, and we're with it.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Question, if I may.
Councilor Lowry.
You did say something interesting. If you don't take part in the 911 regional, could there be grants cut?
Yes, that is possible.
Now, who's saying that?
The state. See, there's a new fee that goes with the cellular phones to pay for the technology that will, and they simply can't fund all of the dispatch centers across the Commonwealth, which is why they've chosen to, and there's a number of these regional entities that are being created around the state.
We may or may not take part. I just don't think it's right the state telling the city or town that they're going to cut public funding, public funds to that city or town because they may not take part. I have a problem with that. Not that you can do anything about it.
Well, I can't, but I think that
No,
the rationale is that it's their money, so they make the rules. Basically, is how it's
not their money; it's public money, and there may be city and towns who really have a problem with this. I might make a motion down the line as a council to write a letter to the governor or to the organization stating that using their balance of power to cut public funding. I just don't agree with. Even if we join it, down the road, we could disagree with something, and why should we lose public funding because we as a council or with the city manager say, we don't want to take part in something. I just don't think it's fair. But that's my opinion.
Okay. Any further discussion under council motions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 items to bring up, but it isn't in the packet, and I'd like to suspend the rules so that I could just briefly ask a question and state an opinion about the amplification system that we didn't actually have on Sunday.
Motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, I'm only asking this question because it came about so many times and I didn't have an answer. Did we put out a bid to contract the street sweeping duties?
We're participating in a regional contract that we participated in with a number of other communities to get a good price to. The EPA is coming out with new stormwater regulations, and there were indications that it was going to require 2 street sweepings a year. We have trouble just doing the one we have right now, or it's been a challenge for us. So this bid was intended to deal with that. Now, they haven't actually come up with those new regulations yet, but that was what we were hearing. So we did participate in this. We're evaluating that now. We will be doing 2 street sweepings. One issue that has come up is we've changed to the manner in which we deal with snow in the city. This ties in. We no longer use sand. So there's a reduction in how much sand is being put down. Reduction is elimination, basically. So while the streets still need to be swept, we don't know if, even with the EPA changes, whether we may be exempt from those because we don't put that down. We're researching that. But we still have our own sweepers. We have 5 sweepers. I believe only 2 of them are working. So to do the city and do it multiple times during the year is problematic. But so that's what's happened with the street sweeping. But we're not locked into this permanently, and we're researching and evaluating whether it makes sense to continue.
It's almost like forced labor, isn't it?
Not quite, but it's.
I don't think we want to restart that discussion.
I know, I'm not. Secondly, Sunday we had an Irish flag-raising ceremony, and we were on the steps of City Hall, and the amplification system didn't work.
Okay.
And Father Crayon and Peg McAndrews screamed their brains out, and you really couldn't hear them. Of course, if it were me speaking, I wouldn't need the microphone, but the fact remains that I'm wondering, I'm embarrassed to say this because we're offering the City Hall to the residents to provide them some sort of comfort in their heritage, and yet we don't live up to our part of the bargain by not providing adequate supplies, being the amplification system. Some time ago, Councilor Caulfield made a motion to try to get a brand-new system. The cost of it would have been $900. There were those at the time that said, gee, we don't have the money, how can we afford that? But yet, to the rescue came three gentlemen, Tom McKay, Terry McCarthy, and Leo Cregan, and they paid for it. And I don't know in what closet in this building is it hiding, but we didn't find it. And the one that we used could have came from Toys R Us, or I don't know where it came from, but we're gonna have more flag raising ceremonies, and I would be embarrassed if this happened again. Could we put it somewhere, because it's ours, it's this council's, and I would like to see it being utilized. We take it on the road sometimes when we have ceremonies around the city, at a park or whatever, and it works very nice. Could we just make sure we have it working properly?
This is the first I've heard of this, Counselor, and we will certainly find out what happened and make sure that there's a good sound system for
Well, the mayor was there, he knows what I'm talking about, and it was a little bit embarrassing. I felt like we let people down, and I don't want to do that again. We're going to have the Ghana next week, March 10th. We're going to have the Greek Independence Day. Gee, I don't want it to happen again. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Councilor. It's known as an Irish whisper, so we didn't need it last weekend, but Councilor Kennedy.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager, on something that Councilor Mercer said at the very beginning, regarding the street sweeping contract, is that being paid, or would that be paid out of the sewer charge money?
It is, because it's tied in with the wastewater system, yes.
Okay. And has that contract been awarded then? Are we doing that right now?
Yes, we are.
And how much is that for? Just, I'm not going to hold you to it.
Yeah, I'll have to get, I won't even venture to guess. I don't have that up. Mr. Moses might be able to pull that up.
Okay.
We'll try.
And how does it get, I mean, how does it work that we're able to use sewer charge money for sweeping? Because of the storm drains?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, that's the rationale for that.
And is that our rationale, or was that suggested to us, or how did we come about that we're doing that? I mean, that water and sewer charge is really just supposed to be for water and sewer, was my understanding from its inception. And so, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. The drainage system, the entire drainage system, all the drainage work in the city, including the catch basins, all the catch basins. What we do, the reason we sweep, although it makes the city look nicer, the reason we sweep is so that it doesn't go into the catch basins, which the wastewater handles, that we then have to pull the stuff out, particularly where we have a combined system, that we're able to prevent the sand, debris, the leaves from going in and clogging up that system.
I understand all that. What I'm asking is, how does it work? How do we justify using the money that we raise from sewer charge to pay for that?
All of that cost of all of the entire wastewater system is all combined into one budget. And that includes the cleaning of the catch basins and the maintenance of those catch basins.
So the sewer charge is not just paying for Duck Island then?
It's everything that goes into the maintenance of every pipe that goes in and goes over to Duck Island.
Okay, so we still have
as well as I might add, with the CSO work we've done now, the new lines that don't necessarily go into Duck Island, but to go into streams or whatever the case may be. So it's an entire wastewater system.
Anything that has to do with it. So if we have the trucks that come in actually clean out the sewers, that take that stuff out, that's being paid for by
wastewater
sewer charge money.
Correct.
Okay, and then the street sweep is being paid for by sewer charge money.
Correct.
Right. Okay, and so we're doing that in Lowell, but do we have communities that are using the Duck Island as well, outside of Lowell?
Mm-hmm.
And so are they also paying they're paying then to clean our streets and our catch basins, is that right?
No, those are separate. They just pay more for the operation of the pipes that go into Duck Island that they feed into, the interceptors, and they pay for their share of the operation of the Duck Island plant. Their own systems aren't combined systems, their own drainage systems in their communities. Now, I don't know how they pay for them, but their own systems do not flow into Duck Island. Chelmsford, Drake-it.
They just take the water, they don't take the sewer.
They take the sewer, but their drainage systems are not combined with their sewer systems. Their drainage systems go into different drainage areas around their communities. So their pipes, that when it rains in Drake-it, their water goes into the catch basins, which then bring it to a drainage area. And it's released there. Whereas in Lowell, it goes in and it's combined with our system.
Yep, okay, thank you. I'll save this for another day then, just to move things along. Thanks.
It is an approach that many communities that operate full drainage systems or wastewater systems that are either combined or not necessarily combined do as part of an overall enterprise. But
Councilor Broderick.
No, I will, I'll wait till it comes up again. I think we've heard enough on it. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on the communications? Councilor Martin.
Thank you. I didn't want this to go uncommented on either, but we have a letter from the Small Business Administration to you, Mr. Mayor, with some data over the last 2 years as to at least the number of Small Business Administration loans. And I think statewide, 2 years ago, we were number 8 in the state, and at least the current year, or at least the year they have the most recent records for, we're second. So, so small businesses in Lowell somehow are accessing these funds, and I think that's bodes well for our local economy here. So.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have a communication from the city manager. Request approval of out-of-state travel. 2 of these items have been removed from the Department of Planning and Development, as well as Greater Lowell Workforce Investment Board. So all that's before us tonight is the Lowell Police Department. Move for approval by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor, roll call, please.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote endorsing the City of Lowell's garden program
Move approval, Mr. Mayor.
and authorizing the city manager to enter into a licensing agreement with the community garden participants. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote, endorsing the City of Lowell's community garden program, and further to authorize the city manager to enter into licensing agreements with community garden participants. Move for approval by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call, please.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
That was an item that Councilor Dakota had brought to our attention last term. Next, we have a vote authorizing the City of Lowell to petition the legislature for act relative to payment of marriage fees. This was brought up by Councilor Mercia. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote, authorizing the City of Lowell to petition the legislature for an act relative to the payment of fees for solemnizing marriages in a municipal building in the City of Lowell. Move for approval by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Noon. Roll call, please.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have an ordinance, motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 243, entitled Streets and Sidewalks, Article 2, Section 243-6, naming of streets. Entertain a motion to refer this to a public hearing on March 20th by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Martin.
On that issue, for the public hearing, Mr. Manager, we're voting to adopt things that per the recommendation of the Lowell Veterans Committee. If we could just see what those standards are.
Mr. Manager.
Yes, Counselor, we will do that. We'll have them provide their current standards that is essentially what the council approved 5 years ago, I believe it is now. The other change, though, that I think needs to be incorporated into this, and I apologize that I just caught this, is that the Veterans Monument Committee does have certain representatives that are spelled out within the policy that was adopted by the council 5 years ago. There is, for instance, a representative of the Lowell Veterans Council. The veterans agent is a member. The mayor has an appointee. The manager has an appointee. And I believe there's one more, but...
The veterans agent.
I think I had the veterans agent.
Oh, yeah. The veterans agent, the manager, and there's two others, I think, from the Veterans Council.
Right, maybe there's greater representation of the Veterans Council, but it was spelled out. We'll include that within this as well.
On that issue, Councilor Broderick.
I was just going to ask for, if I was here 5 years ago, but for all of us, if we could get it, just who those members are. Not necessarily who they are, but where they're from.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have an order, 60-day trial. A motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Reading by title in City Council order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are implemented for a period of 60 days. What's the wish of council?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Roll call, please.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a loan order to refinance outstanding bonds for interest cost savings. A motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Laurie.
Mayor, object to the second reading.
Excuse me?
Object to the second reading?
Sure. In City Council, loan order refinancing outstanding bonds for interest cost savings. Mr. Manager, if you'd like to explain the...
Object means
That-
you-
that kills it,
reading.
Mr. Man.
That's it.
That's it. You can't do anything when you object to the second reading.
It essentially postpones it for 1 week.
Right, it's
Okay.
carried over.
Next, we have a Personnel Subcommittee report from the March 1st meeting. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief as it's getting late. Last Thursday, March 1st, we had a meeting of the Personnel Subcommittee to begin the process of setting, I guess, collaborating with the manager on the goals and objectives for the next year. At the meeting was myself, Councilor Kennedy, Councilor Martin, and the mayor, as well as the administration and members of his staff. It began with the manager offering to defer any merit raise that he might have been entitled to under the contract back in August, had we done the evaluation. Second piece was we took a vote to to postpone and evaluate the manager this coming July, which would give the three new councils an opportunity to do an evaluation of the manager pursuant to the contract. We have to do one within 30 days in August. In addition to that, There was a motion, I believe, by Councilor Kennedy, and seconded, all in favor, to ask each councilor to present to the mayor their top 3 to 5 goals or objectives that they'd like to see accomplished in the next year, to be gathered, I think by the 21st, to be then presented to the manager, to be hopefully gathered together in some semblance of form and for a presentation at our quarterly meeting, which is, I believe, is the 28th. I hope I have the dates correct, so that we can continue this process and hopefully have some agreement, collaborative agreement here on what our goals and objectives are as the manager in the department heads roll into a budgeting process, hopefully performance-based budgeting. In addition to the 3 to 5 top goals, any specific, we're wrestling with the whole notion of measurable goals. Many of these are not necessarily going to be measurable in numbers, but any particular specific, I guess, objectives that any council would like to see done or measurement tools used, include those with your goals as well. Discussion in terms of, updating our website. Well, refreshing it is one thing, but what are the goals? What are we looking to try to do? If anybody has specifics, to give the manager some feedback or actually some goals he understands and what we're going to be measuring them by. It's a very difficult process with 9 people, and also many of these things are economy driven and out of the reach or out of the hands of the manager. It's so that we understand that these things aren't all going to be measurable, but to have some understanding and collaborative effort to what our goals are going to be, and as we go through the budget, to make sure that's where we spend our money as well. So I think we may need a vote to accept those 2 motions by the full body, to evaluate the manager, and he agreed to defer until July or August pursuant to the contract. And then to submit our top 3 to 5 goals or more, whoever wants to submit more. I think we had 8 in the last one we did. So top 3 to 5 or more goals from each councilor to the mayor to be given to the manager for the 21st, to hopefully have a follow-up and continue with this process at our quarterly meeting on the 28th. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. So, I did see you're going to, again, in the newspaper, Mr. Manager, because I wasn't at the meeting, but I did see that you're deferring the merit raise. But last year you got the merit raise and the COLA. Well, that's why I'm asking you a question. The contract reads you started at $172,000 from 2010 to 2011, right? I mean, the salary in the paper, correct? 174,580.
Didn't read the paper, Councilor.
Is that your salary?
I don't know off the top of my head.
You don't know your salary?
It's roughly 175,000.
Mr. Manager.
That's right. I do it for the fun of being here every Tuesday night.
That's not one of them.
No, actually it is. It's about roughly
okay,
175,000.
Well, that's why I was just trying to figure it out, Mr. Manager. That's
no, I understand. I received the cost of living that's based into the contract, but the merit increase, we didn't go through the evaluation process, and I've been working with the unions and the employees of the city. They did not receive, some of them received step increases, but they didn't necessarily receive other raises. So I will defer mine off into the next fiscal year.
For next year?
Correct.
But for the prior year, you did receive it, and then you received a COLA.
I received a COLA this fiscal year, 12, which basically this contract covers. This year the contract covers. I received the COLA on August 1st, but I did not receive a merit. The prior year was the first year of the new contract. That's when I went up to, I believe, thereabouts $1,000, and then this year I received the COLA, but not the merit. I'm deferring that.
When I saw the figure, Mr. Manager, I went to the contract, and I appreciate getting the contract, and I did 172 times 1.5.
That's correct.
Took that, and that's 2580. Added that to your salary, and then the 1.5 on top of that, and that came out to 174,580. That's why I asked you. So you're not taking the merit raise. You're taking the COLA this year.
I took the COLA. I didn't take the merit. I'm deferring that into next year.
Okay, all right. I did have, as I was reading this, Mr. Manager, your contract indicates that you're entitled to take 2 years of vacation, accumulate 2 weeks of vacation time, up to 2 years, so you can carry over 10 weeks?
That's correct.
So can you tell me where you're at now, or do you use it every year, or how much carryover do you
I believe
have?
right now I have about 9 weeks on the books.
Okay. And what about sick time? Because the same thing with sick time.
I accumulate that. There's no buyout of that in my contract.
Okay. I thought that you're subject to the same buyout limitation of $20,000
When I
under Section B.
Correct.
When and if you leave. So you are, how much sick time have you accumulated?
Probably the full amount because I'm very rarely sick. So
Okay, can you get us that information when you get a chance? I think it's, just be good to know. Thank you.
Councilor Broderick?
I think I neglected to go back to the contract, but I think Councilor Elliott and the manager hit it, that basically in the contract, there was a provision for 1.5% cost of living adjustment, then the 1.5 for the merit raise, which was tied to an evaluation, obviously, and we did address this at the subcommittee, so I suppose we should put it out there for the public. And that merit raise would be based on hitting 75% of the goals on a met versus did not meet standard. And I believe some of that language was pulled out of the prior superintendent's contract to try and keep things simple in terms of every year trying to evaluate which form do we use, and the 1 through 5 scoring. So it was either a meet or does not meet. And 75% of those goals. So that is the standard that is in the contract that we will be using going forward, hopefully in the summer after we set our goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just out of curiosity, and just to avoid some confusion come the summer, on your raise, you said you deferred it or you waived it?
Defer.
So you're deferring it, not waiving it. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on the subcommittee report? We had 2 motions from Councilor Broderick out of the subcommittee. Do we have a second for those?
Yeah. Second.
Second by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
So voted. Next we have under general petitions, miscellaneous, Attorney Plunkett and Plunkett for Swan Street Development Company, LLC, requests a zoning change from HRC district to the TSF at 160.1 Swan Street. Mr. Manager, if you could explain what the...
Well, if the manager wants to go, but as I remember this, we had the identical or very similar petition in the fairly recent past. I thought these could only come back every 2 years. Maybe it has been 2 years. But I was going to suggest that we refer this to the law department for report and recommendation. At least as I think commonly these get referred to the planning board. But before we do that, I'd like to know where we stand.
Second.
Whether this was this is a repetitive. There was some significant neighborhood opposition, as I recall.
Motion by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. That's going to be referred to the law department. Next we have, under claims, 2 claims for property damage. Motion to refer to the law department.
For report and recommendation.
For report and recommendation by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. We have under utility petitions for a pole location, National Grid and Verizon New England request 3 poles at Middlesex Street. This would go to a public hearing on March 20th. Motion to refer by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, under City Council motions, we have a motion by Councilor Mercia. Request the city manager allow insert for next mailing of a questionnaire asking which LTC municipal programs does that household watch. Seconded by Councilor Martin. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With this motion, I'm asking that a questionnaire go out to the viewership as to the municipal programs on LTC that the viewers watch. This is just a matter of curiosity. Perhaps they watch the city council meeting or the school committee meeting, or perhaps the zoning board, ZBA meeting, the license commission meeting, conservation commission. I'm just curious as to putting something together, put it out in the next, I don't know, bill or whatever we're going to be sending out. And if people don't want to respond by way of mail, that we could put this same survey or questionnaire online, so, and let them know that by that questionnaire, that if they prefer, they could go online and just let us know. It's just a matter of curiosity. I'd be willing to wonder where we're going, what people are doing, because for one thing, we're asking the public, we're telling the public more or less through LTC that we're going from channel 10 to 99, and we have no idea how many people are actually watching. We could have used that to better reinforce our argument. So better late than never. I think it would be something that we'd like to see. That's where I am with that.
I think we may have lost some of our viewership over the course of the hour.
Second the motion.
Seconded by Councilor Laurie.
Oh, thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Councilor Mercia. Request the city manager create or enforce a policy to inform abutters of construction in their neighborhood. Seconded by Councilor Mendonça.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is kind of like a pet peeve with me. I think I mentioned something some time ago that whenever any construction is going on in different neighborhoods, it would be only a matter of courtesy to let them know. First off, there is work being done. This motion was prompted by the fact that I got numerous calls from people asking me what was going on in their neighborhood of Christian Hill. I had no idea because I heard nothing about it. Namely, there is work going to be going on 17th Street to 547 Beacon Street, June Street, 13th Street, etc. This is a road construction project being done by Allied Paving out of Chelmsford. It is a state project. It was started on March 5th and will commence around to the end of September. Now, don't get me wrong, the neighbors are thrilled about it. They're grateful that the area is being tended to and upgraded. But what has baffled them was not being notified in advance of this project before any of the work was done. They finally were notified after it started, and notices went out around to the abutters 5 days after all the noise and the commotion had taken place. It's very confusing to residents when preparation work is being done and the abutters are left out of the loop. They had no idea what was happening in their neighborhood, and to me, it's just not right. They heard banging noises for 5 days. These noises were done as a result of putting a fence up to store the equipment that was going to be taking place there. They were putting stakes in the ground near June Street, near the Robinson School up there. A flatbed came in, and people were puzzled as to what was about to take place. This, and I don't know if this is what the city is all about, to leave people in the dark. It's not being neighbor-friendly, and I'm wondering, is that the way to treat the residents of the city who are paying our salary? So I don't think that it's proper. I'm not saying it's our fault, but I don't know who's in charge of notifying abutters. But being that we are responsible for what happens in our city, it is incumbent upon us to do that deed. We know that when the state will be coming in and doing the work, I'm sure in the engineer's office, they must be privy to some of that stuff. I want the abutters to know what's happening in their neighborhood in a timely manner before any of the work takes place. I say, let's be courteous. This is what the word means, transparent, transparency in government. We heard about this time and time again. The residents the voters, the taxpayers want us to be transparent. So let the public know what's going on. And I was very embarrassed to tell them, I don't know what's happening in your neighborhood. And you know what? It isn't up to me to really know that. It's up to them to know what's happening in their neighborhood. So I'm really sad about that, because I think they should know in a timely fashion before the work takes place. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick and then Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a good motion. I wasn't sure where you were going with it, with saying construction, but if we could clarify road construction or roadway construction, I think it's a great idea. I think it's really not necessarily a transparency issue as much as communication. And with all the different ways that we can communicate now, I think it might fall back on the old putting out flyers or mailings to let people know when these things are going to happen. We all know the pressure of a morning or evening schedule when we're doing a pickup and drop off and trying to get kids somewhere, or, get to work on time, and, all of a sudden there's a detour and 5 minutes can make you want to get out of your car and jog to work. So I think it's a good motion, and it's timely as we roll into the construction season. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, just, isn't this, do we announce that on TV, or is it something that could be announced on TV when it goes on? Isn't that something that some department, I mean, on that local channel, couldn't somebody do that, or just keep track of that and put it out once a week so that everybody knew that if you'll check your TV on Monday or something like that, it would, you know what I mean? It's, at least that's,
Manager.
it's a little step in the right direction.
What we do is, and if I may, when it's a local project, we've been very aggressive in going out. Just last year, we sent out even on a roadway over in the Highlands that the road work began, it wasn't going to be completed. We made a point of going out and notifying the entire street and some of the side streets that the road work was being delayed till the new construction season. For our own road work, we go out and we do leaflet, and but the engineers go out and walk it and talk to people, oftentimes because we want to coordinate with their driveways or whatever they may have that touch the street, but also just to let them know. We also post on the website and issue press releases, and I'm not sure if we use LTC, but we could use LTC as well. I think what happened here is that it is a state project, and we assumed that they have done other projects and notified people, so I think we assumed that they were, but we'll make that a priority to follow up on that. But as I say, from a city perspective, we always work to notify people that this is taking place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me be a little bit clear. They did go door to door and notify people 5 days after. That's not acceptable to me.
I agree.
And I'm not blaming the city,
No.
but I think...
I think what we should do, though, is because they coordinate these with the engineer's office, we should make the engineer, I'll talk to the engineer's office, and we'll have them make sure that the state does it, or we will do it ourselves. It's probably a better option.
Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
So when they apply for a road opening permit, there's no requirement that they go through the public notification process, correct? Whether it's state, federal, local, anybody, I mean...
Or utilities. I don't believe that's in. I haven't looked at the road opening permit ordinance in a while, but we'll check and see if that's in there. If it's not, we can always come back to the council. It's a good idea.
Councilor Mendonça.
If, as part of your response to the motion, if you could find out and enlighten us on what the notification requirements are at the state level when they do work, and obviously if they do at least inform our engineer, we could inform the neighborhood if we had to. But it'll be good to know what the state requirement is for notification.
Yeah, my guess is the state may not have any requirement, but as I said, what we'll do is anytime there's a state project coming up, we'll make sure that the city engineer's office or neighborhood services goes out and sends out a notice or uses some means of communicating. We also have an alert system that people can sign up for that we can send text messages, emails to people to let them know about events taking place in the city. But we will we'll work to address this issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Broderick.
Thank you. If we could maybe piggyback this, Councilor Mercy had the motion about the questionnaire, and if we could maybe put a little something on there for people to return that want to opt in and sign up for that alert system. Maybe as another opportunity to remind folks that they can get this information emailed or texted to them. If we can put it on, if we're going to send a questionnaire out, maybe we could combine
I
them.
believe the questionnaire was going with the next, is an insert, and we have done that in the past. I believe we have been, that's how we've been getting a good portion of our information. We're getting it off the website, so we will be doing that.
Thank you.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Martin, request the city manager report on progress of discussions with Comcast regarding the movement of municipal programming to Channel 99.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know the manager, Mr. Fenton, and the law department has been engaged with, in some discussions at least, maybe trying to get some reimbursement for the costs associated with the move. I'd actually ask that this motion be referred to the utility subcommittee that I chair. The reason for that is I think there may be hopefully there's some opportunity for ongoing dialogue with Comcast. I think one of the things LTC is interested in is, having its programming shown in other communities and having other communities have their municipal programming shown in Lowell. And with all the various towns migrating into the 90s, some folks at LTC are hopeful that there'd be some opportunity to do that. And so I don't think this is going to be accomplished in the next week or so before the switchover, but some of that technology exists, some of it doesn't, but there's a lot more opportunity for web broadcasts that could be, that make it more available and more likely that we can share cross-community programming. So it's, yes, to get an update on where we stand with the negotiations with Comcast, but also the kind of longer-term negotiation of trying to make more programming accessible throughout the region.
Thank you. Second. Seconded by Councilor Laurie. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just concerned for the people that had asked me if they have Channel 10 and they get the public access channel and it goes and moves to 99, will they be able to get Channel 99 if they just have basic cable?
It's supposed to be the case, yes.
They will?
In your basic cable, have the,
Oh,
so you will
they'd
be able
still
to
get it. All right, I think they're under the impression they're not going to get it, but I'll have to call them back and tell them they will.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Councilor Kennedy requesting the city manager provide detailed report on expenditures for snow removal this season. Seconded by Councilor Laurie. Councilor Kennedy.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I put this motion on the agenda because I had a discussion last week with Mr. Moses about finances that spilled into a discussion about the money that we had spent on snow removal, and I have been surprised that we spent like $750,000 on snow removal so far. In a year that I considered the snow to be minimal, and I think everybody else did. And so I'd like to get a detailed report on just how did we spend so much money on snow removal when, I didn't really have to plow or shovel my driveway, and when I did, I was just pushing the snow, and that's it. Now, I understand that probably some of this goes back to the Halloween storm, which besides the snow created a lot of debris and that there was a lot of cleanup, but there's $750,000 or that's rounded out. I think there's about a good chunk of that is maybe $150,000 or so is just for overtime. It seems like a lot of overtime out of $750,000. And I think that there was probably about $130,000 just for salt. And I understand that probably it's a good idea to stockpile salt, but I'd be interested in knowing how we get that salt and what the shelf life is. Is that something that we can use next year? And do we use the state contract for that, or is that something that we do on our own, or just how is that done? Just because it all just seems like a lot of money. I mean, if we had had a normal winter around here, we'd be, I don't know how much it would cost if the snow that we've got costs $750,000. And then finally, if a lot of that money is attributable to the Halloween storm, and I believe the governor declared a state of emergency, then did we apply for any reimbursements for that? And if we did, how much did we ask for, and what is the likelihood that we would get it? Because that would lower that $750,000. But finally, in my discussion with Mr. Moses too, we spoke about the number of vendors, and I guess there were a list of about 70 vendors that we're using to plow the streets. And I'd like to get a list of those vendors. I'm not so interested in who the vendors are as I am as to what kind of equipment they're using. I mean, 70 seems like a high number to me, and if we're just using people with pickup trucks, you know, I don't think that that's very effective. So anyways, if we could get a detailed report that included, you know, a discussion on the vendors and why we're using 70 vendors and why there was so much money in the first place and why there was so much overtime, and whether or not we're likely to see any reimbursement because of the state of emergency, then I'd appreciate that.
Councilor Martin and then the manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was at the meeting with the discussion between Councilor Kennedy and Mr. Moses, and I was surprised too at the amount. I did have occasion to run into Mr. Snow last week, and he reminded me about the extensive cleanup from the Halloween storm, and hopefully some of the salt is not all exhausted this year, and maybe some of that supply is left. But it kind of jumped out at me too that for a winter everybody considers so mild, we were at that number, and now there's been another storm since that meeting. So I think it'd be helpful to just see exactly where all these expenditures go. So.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
We'll be happy to put together this report. I think that we're well prepared to do that. Let me just say a couple of things though. A big chunk of this was in fact the Halloween storm. There was a tremendous amount of cleanup that went with that by our own staff as well as contractors to get that debris off the roads, and that lasted for quite a period of time. We told people that we would be by, and we made the commitment that we would do that as long as it took, so that we didn't have people having branches and tree limbs in front of their houses. So that did take up a considerable sum. I believe the total sum for that storm was about $200,000. We have submitted we do seek reimbursement wherever we can. We expect that we'll receive probably somewhere in the vicinity of $150,000 for that. We generally receive about 75% of our costs. I think that it has been a mild winter. Last year we spent about $3.3 million for a bad winter, but not overly bad. We remember it as being particularly bad, but it pretty much stopped snowing after February, the first week of February last year. So we got a lot that we remember in December and January, but then it stopped after Winterfest. And those are the types of costs. The last few years we've been between $2.5 to $3.5 million that we spend on our snow removal. I think it's also important to note that whenever you go into a winter, there's initial startup costs. You do stockpile to make sure you have enough salt. The worst thing that can happen, and we have run into this here in the city, and other communities have certainly run into it, if you run out of salt. So you make sure you have enough salt to fill your sheds, and then when you use any of that salt, you immediately replenish it in case there's a shortage that comes about, and that does happen from time to time. We do participate in a state bid for that, or a regional bid for that, to maximize our savings, and so the big chunk of that did go to salt. A big chunk of it went to equipment repair that begins at the beginning of the year. You want to get all your equipment ready to go. Those are the startup costs that you have every winter. If it snows, an excessive amount, you've got those startup costs. If it doesn't snow at all, you still have those startup costs because you can't risk not having that in case you need it. And again, there have been shortages in the past that, and you just don't know what that's going to look like. The other point, and I think we'll have this information for the council, is, I myself, I agree with Councilor Kennedy. Thankfully, we haven't had to do much in the way of shoveling of our driveways this year. But unfortunately, the DPW does not just deal with snow. It also has to deal with icy conditions, and that's where a good chunk of our money has gone as well. There have been several, half a dozen or more cases this year where we've had to send out salt trucks during the night when most of us are asleep. Those trucks have to go out. We ran into a problem with this a year ago where we had a quick freeze-up on a December day that no one anticipated, and we had cars sliding all over the place. So whenever we know that there's black ice that's going to be developed, any icy conditions, we go out there, we pre-treat, so when people get up in the morning to get on rush hour, they see wet roads, they don't see icy roads. And during those nighttime hours when few people are out there, but there are people still out there, we don't want those icy conditions. But we have all of that information. We'll make that available in a full report.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Councilor Laurie. Request the city manager have traffic engineer or proper department check Boylston Street for additional or new locations for crosswalks, installation of stop sign at the corner of 6th Street and Reed Street, and installation of stop sign at the corner of Totman and Varnum Avenue.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Yeah, I'd received a call, and I talked to one of the people out in South Lowell some time ago about the conditions out on Boylston Street. Usually the crosswalks near the Pine School, it goes from the sidewalk across Boylston Street where there is no sidewalk, and half the crosswalk goes into someone's driveway, actually. And I was out there a couple of days, and not a lot of children walk home. They don't even have a crosswalk out in there. But the few days I was there, I watched, and there's only two crosswalks, one on Route 38 and one down by the bridge. Now, the one by the bridge, you could cross, and the people crossing the bridge can't see you. It's that close to the bridge. And what I did notice was a lot of people coming out of the side streets to use the two parks, Shed Park and the park in the back. And just out of safety issues, I was wondering if we could possibly put more crosswalks out there.
Mr. Manager.
We'll certainly have the traffic engineer go out. The thing to remember about crosswalks, it does concern me that there's one that goes into someone's driveway or goes into, and I'll have to go out and take a look at it myself, but the crosswalks, there's certain standards of where you put crosswalks so that, because what you're basically doing with the crosswalk is you're authorizing people to cross there because you're telling them it's safe. You also have certain new rules, certainly over the last 15 or so years, that it has to be ADA accessible. So you can't just put them anywhere. You can't have them mid-block. That violates the standards. You don't want them at a location that's dangerous in any way, and it has to be accessible from a handicap perspective. But we'll go out and see if we can fit some out there somewhere.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things about the crosswalks, there is no sidewalk on the other side of Boylston Street until you get to Berwick, and even that's impassable for someone in a wheelchair or a scooter. So the only place they would be able to cross is, and the other two was, if we could put a stop sign at the corner of 6th Street and Reed, on 6th Street itself. It's a heavy traffic area. 6th Street has the only light from Bridge Street to, I believe, 18th Street. So a lot of the traffic coming off Christian Hill does utilize it. The street is probably 3/4 of a mile long from the top, so cars do come down, they do pick up speed, And between Reed Street and Bridge is a school, a church, a rectory, and a bank. So it's a safety concern. And the last one was Topman Road and Varnum Ave. Somebody told me there was a stop sign on Topman Road coming down into Varnum Ave, and it's now missing. And with all the development in Pawtuckaville off of Topman Road, I thought it might be a good idea to put one back. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Counselor Laurie and Counselor Mercia. Request the city manager have proper department replace McQuaid Family Veteran sign at the corner of Hudson and Lawrence Street. This doesn't require a second. Counselor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank Counselor Mercia for coming aboard on the motion. There was a sign for the McQuaid family at the corner of Hudson and Lawrence Street due to the efforts of Counselor Mercia years ago. The sign has disappeared, and for some reason, there's been quite a problem trying to get it replaced. And I know Counselor Mercia has in the past. She was responsible for the area being dedicated to the McQuaid family, and I'm just asking that we look into it and replace the sign. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Councilman Donza. Request the city manager create an inventory of double poles owned by each utility company in Lowell, including the date it became a double pole and the estimated date of removal. Seconded by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Mendonça.
This is something we have to be vigilant about. It comes up every couple of years. And just to stay on top of it, it was recently in the news as well. And just one thing, even the motion reads here to create. My original request was that the manager request this information from the utility companies rather than have the city do the work. Now, if it's not available, maybe we will have to create our own, but my original intent was to have the owner of the pole provide that inventory along with this other information so that when we could see how long they've been out there, assuming they're honest about it. But and anyway, going forward, once we have the list, we could use it to see if they do correct the situation within an appropriate amount of time.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Well, thank you, Councilor, for clarifying. I thought I was going to miss Henry for a month, having him walking the streets of the city, counting. But I believe they have an inventory document already in place. My understanding and my experience has been that they do. So we'll get a copy of that, and then we'll forward that on to the council. And I certainly support your next motion regarding a penalty for poles that stay for a longer period of time.
All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilman Donza. Request the City Council support resolution in support of legislation allowing municipalities to penalize utility companies that allow double poles to remain for longer than 90 days. Seconded by Councilor Laurie. Councilman Donza.
That one I think is straightforward on its own, so I'll just leave it at that.
Councilor Kennedy.
I'd just like to point out that I'm going to support the motion, but I'd like to point out that there's 3 public hearings, I think, on March 20th that we scheduled, and that might be an opportunity to vent further on this issue.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.